Yeehaw! And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome in the Rob Brown Radio program. Is in your ear holes. Happy Wednesday, my dudes and dudettes. I am Rob Brown. The great Lonzo is here as well. Ever so glad to have you as part of the radio show. Ever so glad to have you here with us this AM. Hope that you are having just the loveliest of mornings so far. Bright and early this AM.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. But rough start. Rough start for one Rob Brown today. All right? Rough start for your boy today.
But you're here.
Yep.
And you know, so everything's going to be all right.
Every little thing is going to be all right. I am jacked about a Bob Marley biopic.
I don't know. I just
Jacked about it.
I don't know about the actor. So for some reason, I pictured something different. You know, that doesn't mean it won't be good though.
When they announced what's his face playing Freddie Mercury, I had the same reaction, but he nailed it. Nailed it.
Did he? I never watched it.
Oh, it was good. Bohemian. Let me put it this way: unless you are a big time Queen fan. Because there were a lot of...
Yeah, somebody else told me it wasn't good. So
it's fine, but I think there was a lot of chronological inaccuracies to it, right? There was a lot of I don't want to say embellishment, because I don't think that's the right word. I think there were just a lot of changes to actual parts of the story to make it more interesting. And that's always
dramatization.
Yeah. It's always there's dramatization, and then that's not what happened, right? This is what happened, and maybe we don't know exactly what words were said, and you know, there's a conversation where Freddie and the gang are talking to their first record exec, played by Michael Myers, and there's a really funny line where they play Bohemian Rhapsody for him. And Michael Myers, as his record exec, is like, what do you think? The teenagers are going to drive around their car headbanging to this? And it's like, all right, that's really funny if you get it. We don't know what the actual conversation was, but we know the gist of it. So we'll write dialogue towards what actually happened. And then that's not when or why that song came out at all. There's that's not how those people were involved with each other at all. Like, it's one thing to dramatizationing. It's another thing to just flat out make stuff up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the same time, you've got to make a movie interesting to a degree. And if you weren't there, I mean, you can make up what you think happened.
To me, stories like Queen and Bob Marley are interesting enough. Just tell us what happened, right? Like, you need to write conversations. Like, we don't know that Bob Marley was singing to his kids after somebody tried to assassinate him. Like, that's a nice little scene.
We might know because one of the kids might have.
Okay,
said
fair.
That.
I'm trying to come up with an example.
I get it.
But the point here is,
well, like the meeting you talked about.
Like, we know that meeting happened, right? But we don't know what the conversation in that meeting was, or at least probably not word for word. Like Brian May, who was heavily involved, who is not only an astrophysicist, but also one of the greatest guitar players to ever live. I'm sure when they were putting the movie together, Brian May was like, yeah, here's kind of how that conversation went. I can't remember it word for word, but although he's an astrophysicist. But like, here's kind of what happened. That's one thing. It's another thing when they're like, Freddie wrote this song for this reason. And you're like, no, he didn't. That, like, he's literally said in interviews, that's not what happened. What are we doing?
So here? I'm confused here. You told me it told us.
It's still very
It's a good movie, and now you're just kind of breaking it apart in points where you're like, I don't know, that doesn't sound good.
No, it's again, you know what it is? It's this, ladies and gentlemen, this example I'm about to give is for Alonzo and I and the like 10 gaming nerds in the audience. It is interesting the way that like playing through Assassin's Creed is interesting, you know, like the historical setting You know?
Yeah.
Like you're running around murdering people during the American Revolution. You're meeting Ben Franklin. Like real cool, but also
on the battlefield with George Washington.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of
all very cool stuff to
Yeah.
play a game through, but you also know like the story itself is very, very interesting, but you got this whole secondary false narrative, false story going through it. Give me what actually happened. The stories of these legends are good enough as they are to me. All right, that's a weird tangent I didn't know we were going to go down this morning, but that's okay. That's what we do here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. Great to have you. Busy day on the show today. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, those of you of the Gamecockian nature, you woke up, I'm assuming, quite happy this morning. You see, because yesterday, I was not prepared for that.
My bad. That was a little loud.
Oh, was not ready for that at all.
Felt that in my sinuses.
Oh, dude, that scared the hell out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Yep, BPM's up now. Adrenaline's real, kids.
Did you really just check? I was boosting your monster.
It worked. Why the hell do I need a monster from now on? Lonzo, just within the first 7 minutes of the show, without telling me, hit the rooster at about 900 dBs, and that'll work.
So that's a more acceptable level, right?
Yes,
there.
It is. I agree.
Okay. All right.
Oh, blah. All right. We're good. America. Yesterday at the end of the show, actually multiple times throughout the show, we were talking about a big-time basketball game being played yesterday evening between the South Carolina Gamecocks on the road in Knoxville, Tennessee, taking on them dadgum Volunteers. And, you went in as 14.5-point dogs. You went in as big-time dogs. You went in with me saying, look, I think I can take South Carolina to cover, but I think it'll be a close cover. For me, the goal here is going to be make it competitive, right? Make sure you go in there and you don't fall apart, because here's the reality. That place is going to be raucous. That place is going to be hostile. That place is going to be a tough place to play. What I need to see out of you, South Carolina men's basketball team, I need to see you go in there. I need to see when the heat turns up that you are not going to lose your mental composure. That was my problem with this team against Alabama. That was my problem with this team against Georgia. Both losses. The Alabama loss on the road, completely understandable. That's a good Bama team. And Coleman Coliseum has made its way into the upper echelon of most beneficial home court advantages. But it wasn't that you lost. It wasn't that you lost on the road. It was that Bama slapped you in the mouth and your team unraveled. But all right, you know what the problem is, because the basketball's fine, right? Good ball movement, solid three-point shooting team. BJ Mack underneath is a dump truck. Like, there's a lot of good to this team, but if you are a mentally weak team, it doesn't matter how good you are. Last night, the Gamecocks went to Neyland. Last night, the Gamecocks weathered a late Tennessee run. Last night, the Gamecocks got their second top six upset in a week, this time on the road, 63-59. South Carolina goes up to Knoxville and knocks off the Volunteers. BJ Mack had 16 in the paint. In the paint? What? Huh? In the paint? Telon Cooper had 18 on 6 of 10. Here's the thing. The Gamecocks only shot 34% from the floor. They shot 34% from the floor, 10 of 29, 34.5% from deep, 15 of 18 from the stripe. Let me tell you how you won this game. While you shot 34%, you held Tennessee to 36%. And while you shot 10 of 29, you held them to 5 of 21. And it didn't help that Tennessee shot 60% from the free throw line where you went and knocked down 84%.
I was going to say, it seems like I'm this guy every time. And I watched the game, and I apologize. When you say held to, there were some gimme shots that were just missed, including straight up bunny layups that were missed. I mean, and defense had nothing to do with it. It was just poor shooting.
If you would like to continue to denigrate the good name of college basketball, sir.
The Gamecocks got it done. It was back and forth for a while, and then they started to pull away, but they let Tennessee come right back in there and made it really close at the end. I'm like, okay, they got this against it. Wait, come on. Don't let that guy shoot without contesting. And now it's that close. It just, you talk about defensive, and I didn't see as much defense as you did.
Well, you know what? We need to watch a college basketball game together. We need to pick a day where there's like a good Sunday afternoon slate, meet in the middle, meet that old Georgia Pine.
Yeah, football's almost over. Yeah, we could meet at a, like a wings place or something.
Here for
hang out, get some food, watch. Me see something you don't see, you see something I don't see.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen,
disagree the entire time.
If you ever tune into a Monday morning and only one of us is here, it's because we watched college basketball together. All right? If one of us comes on the stream, battered, busted, bruised, we're like, he's not here anymore. It's because we watched college basketball together. That was a fantastic game. Now,
it was all right.
I will 100% acknowledge both teams were struggling from shooting the rock last night. And it was not exclusively because of great defenses, but look,
it's because I was watching. Anytime I watch, they just want to prove me right. So I mean, that's, and I appreciate it. But, if shooting percentages goes up by me not viewing, then I just won't view.
I mean, the difference between them shooting 34% and them shooting 40% is like 4 more baskets.
I got to tell you, the main reason I watched this game is because you intrigued me. Talking about it on the air, which is your job.
If you weren't entertained by this game, I don't know what to tell
you. You intrigued me, but for the simple fact that South Carolina isn't getting ranked, and
they are now.
We'll see. We'll see. What if they don't?
If they don't, I am going to go ahead and tell you. I have told you this since I got here. I'm saying the royal you here. In the Gamecock v. Clemson rivalry, I don't pick a dog, right? I mean, I guess I have kind of picked a side to some degree with a fiance in that I want her to be happy because when she is enjoying watching sports, it's easier for me to watch more sports.
Well, the other side is overly represented here. So not on the station.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant. I don't have a dog in that fight. I genuinely want both schools to be involved in the natty scene in every sport because it makes my job both easier and more profitable, right? And more profitable. So I have a rooting interest in games like this for South Carolina and for Clemson, without a doubt. I will tell you right now, when the next top 25 poll drops, if this team is not ranked in the top 25, you guys are going to get segments about it. I will be on a warpath because with 2 top 6 wins, including one on the road, which if I recall correctly, that was the first road top 25 win for South Carolina in years. Here's where I stand. I sent this tweet out last night. Lamont Paris is the SEC head coach of the year. That is not a question. That is not a opinion. That's a statement of fact, right? As Paul Heyman very frequently says, that's not a prediction. That is a spoiler. He is the SEC coach of the year, without a doubt. I think that if this team doesn't get ranked, I will have questions about the ranking process. I thought they should have been ranked after the win over Kentucky. They were 26. They were just outside. And again, I will say, as Spur Daddy said last night or during the show yesterday, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What matters is March. Nothing matters but March. But let's call it what it is here. The field in March is set by a selection committee. The field in March is set by a bunch of dudes in a locker room that are all sitting around like, all right, it was our Q1 wins and quadrant this and net wins this and KenPom rating over here and all these different factors. The more of those factors you got in your back pocket, the better the chance you are not just in the tournament, but in a good spot in the tournament. Now, obviously, the best thing if you're South Carolina that you can do is keep this momentum, keep it through the next 12 games or whatever it is, get into the SEC tournament and make some damn noise. That's the best thing you can do is make some noise in the tournament, the conference tournament. You make a good bit of noise in the conference tournament, you're catching a good seed, right? But put some respect on it. Put some respect on it. 2 top 6 wins, 1 at home in a dominant dub, 1 on the road in one of the most difficult places to play out there on Pat Summit Court. This team's good, dude. And I guess that's what I've been saying since that Bama game. The frustration was I can see the foundation of a very good basketball team in Columbia. I can see the foundation of it. I can see the foundation. This is the type of team that you have that makes recruiting the next team that much easier, right? This is the type of team that you put together that you can go to the best high school players in the state moving forward and go, hey, look at what we did here. Look at this squad. That Clemson L is going to haunt you. But that win last night, chef's kiss, man. We're going to talk more about it later on in the show. Coming up today, Carolina has an offensive coordinator. In the bank, in the bag, in the book, comes with Dave Canellis up from Tampa. I will tell you who that is and whether there it is, apropos, and how I think this individual fits into the system. Got a few other assistant coaches rounded out as well, so we'll talk some Panther ball later in the show. We will get into some NBA. Joel Embiid exited last night's game. He's having another MVP career season. My man went 21 consecutive games scoring 30 points or more. He had a 72-pointer. He is absolutely one of the top 2 players in the NBA en route to an MVP, except here's the problem. Remember back in the offseason when the NBA put into place that new little restriction that says you can't miss more than X amount of games. You have to play 65 games in order to qualify for individual awards at the end of the year? Joel Embiid left the game last night after having a Golden State Warrior land on his knee, had to go get an MRI. He could... Lonzo, with the week that you are having, are you going to go after a dude dropping 30s at a time for having a whole-ass NBA player land on his knee?
That was for you. It wasn't for him. I mean, dude came back in and played.
I thought you were busting up Joel.
No, he came back in and played. It sounds like you were going to make an excuse for him, saying if it wasn't for that rule, he could have actually went and taken care of himself. But because of the rule, he had to come back in. Am I wrong? Is that where you were going?
He already played in the game. He could have left and gone home. What I'm saying is, are we good with this rule when a dude put up 21 straight 30-pointers, but he can only miss 5 more games this season, or he cannot be the MVP, despite the fact that he is having the best career year yet coming off an MVP? Are we good with that rule still? The 65-game minimum rule. I'm going to talk about that later.
Yeah, we are. All right. Anyway. Yeah, we
are. Spoilers everywhere in the opening segment. We'll talk about that later. Big conversation yesterday. We didn't get a chance to get to it yesterday. And by didn't get a chance, I mean I teased it and then forgot to come back to it. But the NFL's taunting rule has been a major discussion point amongst the talking heads on the networks. Yeah, push. Wow. Clip that video. That's what I want.
Oh, yeah? What about one of these?
Oh, no. That's too far.
Okay.
That's too far.
All right.
You can give me the FU in sign language. I accept
That
it.
is not what that is.
Yes, it
no,
is.
it's Italian for I hope you choke on blood.
No, I'm telling you what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's where it came from.
And I'm telling you it's Italian for
Okay.
I hope you choke on blood.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the thing you said.
I'm pretty sure.
I know you want it to be that.
No, I'm telling you in ASL, that's what that means.
No way. No way. I'll look it up.
Okay.
I'll look it up.
Lanza,
Which one's
Lanza just told me where I can shove it.
No. Which one do you think is worse?
They're both pretty good. Pretty good. All right, we got to take it. If you're not watching the stream, none of this makes sense. Facebook.com/FanUpstate, Twitter.com/FanUpstate.
Why you should watch. Where's Joe at we could use Jersey Joe right now.
And the Rob Brown Show.
He can help me out.
We're back after this on the Fan Upstate. Nah.
That does not mean that.
In ASL, that's exactly what it means.
It does not. I mean, how you even look that up? Just like throwing the OK sign up means like 10,000 things. I mean, whatever.
All it means to me is he shot that ball from 18 and a half feet or further away. And if you leave me now,
see, why are you going back to that?
I can't. Look at Spurt Eddie having the existential breakdown this morning. Hey man, embrace it. Embrace it.
Since Don Staley got there, that's been the truth.
I mean, you say it like it's a bad thing, bro. You know? Back in 22 seconds. Not even. Maybe.
All right. You know I'm counting. I'm looking at the clock to see if he makes it back in 22 seconds because he's not going to. He's now like killing himself trying to get back. He did not make it back in 22 seconds. It was not 22.
I feel like it was right on it.
No, it wasn't. It was 24. You just, 2 seconds faster.
It's pretty good for a guy not holding on to a watch.
You weren't trying that hard. I didn't hear you stomping. When you're moving fast, you can hear you stomping.
I was counting in my head.
You can hear you stomping from halfway down the hallway if you're really trying to hoof it in here.
I didn't sprint. I was just going to the Fortress of Nerditude.
That's what I mean. You try to make it from there to here in like 3 steps. Which with your stride, you probably could.
Skrilla, happy early birthday, buddy. You know, I'll holler at you tomorrow.
Elon Musk, quit showing me the robots that are going to take over the world. Dude, that is... It's like sneaking. No. It's got like a black... Oh, that's wild. Do you think in your lifetime you will walk around and see robots and it'll just be a normal thing?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think we're already pretty close. There are restaurants now that have like the drive around ones that have trays and stuff.
Yeah, there's one right over there.
Yeah. I don't think we're terribly far away from those being upgraded. It's like, you know how quick we went from like the Nokia Razor to full on iPhones? Like it was 7 years, you know?
All right. I'm talking about humanoid looking robots.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying like we went from Nokia Razors where all you could do was play Snake on a number keypad to freaking supercomputers in our pocket.
Admittedly, I'd be completely freaked out by it, but I could use a robot to clean the house.
Yup.
Let's add to the laziness of the world. Why not? Enjoy the fact that Patrick Mahomes will be probably the last real quarterback before we go to Mex.
Battle bots on the football field.
Invest in over 30 cryptocurrencies on Netcoins, America's low-fee crypto trading platform. Take advantage of zero funding fees, fast trading, plus a $25 credit with code NFL 2024. Netcoins, crypto investing made easy. Download the app today at netcoins.com. Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries. Odyssey app makes it easy. With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Mark Ryan, Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and more. Don't miss a big. Just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app.
Smith and James, the next break.
10-4. The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. 4 hours of sports talk, entertainment, excellence every weekday morning. 844-326-3663. 844-FAN-FONE. That's the number to be a part of the radio broadcast today. You can text us at 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. Texter said the Gamecocks won on a football field. You said kneeling and one in the pank. You struggling, bruh. Yeah. It was a slow get it going AM for your boy. But you know what? We're here. We're cranking full throttle. It's what we do. Spur Daddy.
I was going to say, I hit you with some more rooster if you want.
Nope, sure don't. Spur Daddy jumped on the stream this AM. He said, I have officially accepted that Carolina is a basketball school, not a football school. It's time to embrace it, Gamecock fans. I would say, Spur Daddy, the success of the basketball team is good for everything, right? Rising tide floats all boats. The more notoriety, infamy, PR that you get in any sport, the better it is for every sport. Obviously, Dawn Staley has your women's basketball team playing with an incredible clip. They broke LSU.
All right, I'm confused because I've been told, I've heard this on the radio, that football defines your school.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're in the Southeast. It is king. And anybody arguing it's not king,
by the way,
is tricking themselves.
Football's king everywhere. The Southeast thing.
I think if you, not at the college level, if you go up to the Northeast, it's hockey and basketball. If you go out to California, baseball's almost on equal footing.
You ever been to Ohio?
I have not.
Okay.
But Ohio is not everywhere else. That is somewhere else. There are other places, sure.
I'm just saying the regionalism thing I've never gotten. Well, we just do it differently. No, I mean, it's just as big everywhere. You just think it's bigger where you are.
That's not necessarily because I don't have the experience. I've never been to Ohio or Nebraska. I know in Texas, the high school football stadiums have 35,000 seats, right? Like that's normal.
Okay, so you only judge it by high school.
No, I'm saying that if you want to,
because I would say go watch a Massillon game or a bunch of those different Massillon.
I don't know what that is.
It's in Cincinnati.
I still don't know what it is. Now I know where it is.
It's a big time high school in Ohio, and there's several of those that put out NFL players all the time. So and they have fairly big stadiums. I just don't. I've heard that so much since I moved here, and I've lived here half my life, and I've never understood it. I guess it's a pride in where you are thing, but I just don't believe it.
As a traveler, as somebody who enjoys going places and seeing things,
Except Ohio,
other parts of the world,
I get there's nothing there for you.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why am I going to Ohio?
Cedar Point, Kings Island,
amusement parks.
Yeah, well, there's those.
I'm from Florida, dog.
I don't.
The amusement park bar. It just means more in the amusement park world of Florida.
Okay, you're right. So when I came down here, it's like, yeah, football means more. I'm from Ohio, dog. To use your words. What's that mean? I mean, football is just as big there as it is here.
Look, I think
also the Pro Football Hall of Fame is in Ohio. You said Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so that's the only one you care about.
No,
I mean,
that's okay, fair. I missed one. There's two.
But you know what's right around the corner from the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
A roller coaster.
Massillon. Camp McKinley.
Well, I'm not going there.
Why?
Look at me.
I mean, I'm just saying. I've never understood that because I never heard that where I'm from. Yeah, well, it means more up here, and the football is bigger up here, and this is bigger up here. Look,
it comes from the success of the SEC and nothing more. It is.
You think so?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Has the SEC won more football championships historically than other places?
Nobody cares about historically. They care about
nobody cares about. Well,
yes.
I think
yes is the answer.
I don't think so. I'm curious about that. Michigan won a ton early on, and Ivy League schools in the beginning. I mean, I'm not sure the SEC has won more football championships than anywhere else.
I think in recent memory, college football has been centered in the Southeast, right? Somebody showed me a map not too long ago where there's basically a circle that covers up the Southeast. And it was like 20 of the last 21 natties have come out of this. Now it's like 20 of the last 22 have come out of this circle and nowhere else, right? Going back to like USC and Pete Carroll. After that, it was all Southeastern teams. It was the LSUs and the Florida States and the Alabamas and et cetera, the Georgias. But,
all right, according to the internet, Yale holds the title of most college football championships with 18.
In the Ivy League,
Alabama is second, but Alabama hasn't caught Yale, and they're not gonna.
Like I said, I don't think anybody cares.
Because Nick retired.
I don't think anybody cares about the record of football teams when they were playing with a rock and no forward pass, right?
Without which there wouldn't be the game that we have today.
Doesn't mean they care about it.
Mister, I go walk on battlefields. History doesn't matter. Yeah, right.
All right. So I'll come back to it. I'll come back to the Carolina thing in a minute. Because now we're here. Don't put me in a spot where I have to defend SEC fans, dude. I don't want to do that.
You said Southeast, which doesn't have to be there. ACC's down here too, so it's not like, I mean, so you can throw that in there.
Are you propping up the ACC?
No,
Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
You're.
I'll wait.
This is your region. I think you can't talk about one and not talk about the other.
These are yo people.
You're the one that brought it up.
I brought it up for a completely different reason. I brought it up to respond to Spur Daddy's comment about accepting that Carolina is a basketball school and giving, by the way, Spur Daddy, I would be very careful with that phrase because you're giving Clemson fans the red meat right there.
Right, exactly.
They're going to lap that up, dude. Like, don't be shocked if you hear your name being disclosed on other programs at some point for saying what you just said. But, and I was going to drive at this. I'll come back to it later in the show. I think if it is true that the Gamecocks are a basketball school now, if that is true, and if you are saying that the men's basketball program is now more important than the football program, don't be shocked when Clemson fans latch on to that, and that becomes a new war cry on Thanksgiving weekends from this point moving forward. Here's what I am going to say. The pace at which Lamont Paris is building the basketball team is officially outpacing the pace at which Shane Beamer is building the football team.
Yeah,
officially.
It's early on yet, and they've hit some stumbling blocks along the way, and they could do so again. They're playing pretty well right now. They can have a bad game here or there.
Not disagreeing. Listen, they've had a couple of bad games. They've also had some not so bad. The loss at Clemson is not bad. It's not a bad loss. The Georgia loss is the only loss I would say is a bad loss. The Bama loss is if there is such a thing. I think if you analyze college basketball, you get to a point where you realize there are absolutely good losses. The Bama loss is a good loss. On the road at Coleman, that's a good loss. The loss against Clemson is not a bad loss. It's maybe not as good of a loss as we would have liked with Clemson dropping a few. They did get the win last night at home. P.J. Hall becomes the 15th highest scoring Clemson Tiger in school history. That dude's a freaking baller, dude. Like, he's fun to watch, too. We're going to talk Clemson ball as well. But this team's good. This team's good. And Lamont is outpacing Shane Beamer now. He is. I mean, that's not a question, right? If I was a lazy host, I would hot take that, and I would turn it into, something more than it is. It's not a hot take. Look at where that team is. This team was picked to be one of, if not the last place team in the Southeastern Conference. Instead, they have now knocked off the top two teams in the Southeastern Conference. They have a total of 3 losses, one of them to the third best team in the Southeastern Conference. The other one that I think we all look at and go, yeah, what was that, dude? What was that? What was that? What was that Georgia loss, man? But I also pointed out, and this is why we're talking about basketball in South Carolina in January. Because if you look at the team that played at Tennessee last night and the team that played at Alabama 3 weeks ago, they are different teams. Same players, same coach, same unis, different teams. The team that played last night had a point late in that game. Lonzo brought it up earlier. Very late in the game, Tennessee went on a little mini run. And that stadium came alive for the first time in a while, right? South Carolina came out, put up 7 on the board before Tennessee scored, and they took the wind out of the sails of the Volunteer faithful. There was never a point in that first half after South Carolina jumped up to a lead. There was never like the hook in the game where Tennessee fans could kind of feel the energy, the electricity, the emotion, climb back into that thing and become the sixth man. That didn't happen until right at the very end. And in fact, I was tweeting the game last night. I said at one point, I'm like, this is the moment. This is the moment we've waited for. This is the moment where we find out if the issue's been fixed, because the fans are alive and awake. Their team is feeling themselves. They're knocking down shots they haven't been knocking down all night. This is the moment where I need to see this team be level-headed. This is where I need to see composed basketball. Keep doing what you're doing. Against Alabama, that's the point where they started having Michi jacking up 32-footers for no reason. Show me that you're going to keep doing what you've been doing to get here. And they did. They kept feeding BJ Mack. They kept distributing from the blocks. They kept playing outside in. They kept getting Michi off high pick and rolls to give him room to drive or to pull up. Composed basketball is what I needed to see, and I synced it.
All right. So when Tennessee had turned the tide and was starting to come back, there's a play, and as knower of ball, you could probably explain this to me. I mean, I've seen someone take the ball and hit it off the opposing player and it go out of bounds.
Yep.
How the Tennessee player hit it off the South Carolina player's head.
Yep.
How is that not a flagrant?
He threw the ball at him. It went out of bounds.
Threw the ball at his face, though.
He threw the ball at him. Doesn't matter where it hit him. It touched him last.
It doesn't. So if he threw it and hit him in the groin and it bounced off the groin,
Out of bounds.
it hit him last.
You know how I know that? It's happened to me.
Okay.
Happened to me. Choctaw High School. I can even tell you the game. It was against Pace High School. They had a dude
Hate
that
those
went about
guys.
6'9",
Punks.
about 270 in high school. He was also, this may shock you, the starting running back for that team. Big dude. He and I battled all 4 years I played basketball. And I want to say it was my senior year. We were underneath. This dude kicked my ass. All right. He had me by 70 pounds, but that was my role. And we were at Pace. I want to say my senior year. Ball bounces. We both went for it. He had the edge. He got it. He turned. He wailed it at me. Caught me right in the junk. I crumbled. And then when I finally rolled over, what do I see but the ref pointing to give his squad possession? It sucked.
Yeah, I just don't. I've never seen that before. It's weird.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Right in the forehead.
That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. It's part of the game. Just like if I whipped a pass cross court and sniped a guy in the dome who was running the other way, it's just part of the game. That being said, it was a hell of a play. Hell of a play from that kid. Hell of a play from that kid.
If you say so, not to the one who just got hit in the face.
Oh, no, it sucks to be that guy. Hell of a kid that did that. So, point here is, and I appreciate the comment there, Spur Daddy. Even if, and for your benefit, don't say that on the other show. All right. I don't tell people how to interact with anybody else's show. Spur Daddy, for your benefit, don't say that on the other show. All right. You'll never hear the end of it.
You will see eyes light up.
Yeah.
It will be scary.
In fact, I'm really glad you said that on the stream and not on the text line. All right. I'm glad that after this stream is over, I can delete that and it's gone for you. And I'll do that for you because, I care about my listeners. But even if that is true, so what? So what? Don't you want to be a something school instead of another school? Right? If Lamont turns you into a basketball powerhouse, isn't that a good thing? Like, I've seen that a couple of times, and I've seen that statement treated as if it's like a curse. Wouldn't that be a good thing? Don't you want to be a something school? I would think so. Let's take a break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Smith.
All right, guys, quick live reading. We're coming right back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you.
mean that
I'll give it a shot. Yeah. Man, I got to tell you, it got under my craw last segment. It got under my craw, which I think is it's like the hinge part of a claw, right? Isn't that what a craw is? I think it's the hinge part of a claw.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever used that phrase.
What
so.
is a craw? Some live research. The crop of a bird or insect. The crop of a bird or insect.
Okay, what's the crop?
Yeah, this isn't.
Well, the crop is like if you're holding a baton.
I think it's the joint part, but I could be wrong. All right, whatever. It's not the point. Listen, it bothered me because of, and I'm not putting this on you, Spur Daddy, but it bothers me. And maybe this is just because I'm a basketball guy, right? Like I grew up a basketball guy. My mom will tell you with great fury that because of my uncles who were all ballers, that my first word was basketball. She hates it. She hates it.
It's a pretty big word for a first word, but you are
a haughty intellectual even
haughty,
as a baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I came out of the womb with bifocals in a pipe. I wasn't swaddled. I was put in a tweed jacket.
Now that I absolutely believe that.
So it bothered
Little
me
Rob in a tweed jacket.
That Carolina is a basketball school gets said with such animosity. It gets said with such hatred, such disrespect. It really bothers me.
I mean, you don't want to be like Duke. I mean, you don't want to be like North Carolina. You don't want to be known for basketball.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Why would you want to be? I mean, come on.
You definitely don't want your school on the forefront of every sports show that airs from December through April. That's terrible.
No.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody
wants your logo popped on TV multiple times a week. Nobody wants your highlights being shown as primary highlights in the opening segment of whatever sports highlight show you happen to be watching that morning because your team's kicking everybody's ass. Nobody wants that. That's bad. No, come on, man. Come on. And again, to me, having that and being based in the SEC, those things go hand in hand. And I'll flip the script on you. Alabama now has a very good basketball team, right? Nate Oates has put together a real good squad in Tuscaloosa at Coleman Coliseum. And I think it got there because of the football team, right? Because of the football team being so dominant for so long, it pulled the other sports up. Now, all of the sudden, their basketball team's real good. Their baseball team, which has always been respectable, is now good, right? Like it drags sports across the school's platform are the illustration of a rising tide lifts all boats. And so if Lamont outpaces Shane in growing the basketball program, that's not a bad thing. Get the name, get the logo out there. People want to be connected to a winner, even if it is a different sport. Guys that played ball at Alabama, I'm not saying exclusively, but I have no doubt that there are some guys that played hoops at Bama who are there because of Bama's image as winners, right? So if Lamont can keep building the brand, can keep repping the logo, can keep getting you on the highlights, as you have been now twice, you have been a lead-off story on every highlight show. If that keeps up, the brand can only get more value. And you may not like it, but the reality is that branding matters, man. Like your brand is your power. Your brand is how you find success, no matter what it is that you do. Your brand is what matters. So to have Lamont kicking this basketball team into overdrive, even if you become a basketball school, so what? Let your football team hitch onto the wagon and ride the wave, dude. That seems like a net positive to me. Maybe I'm just an optimist. Lonzo accuses me of being overly optimistic all the time.
It's one of those things I get tired of saying.
I believe it. I'm sure it is aggravating to be around someone like me who is just always sunshine and rainbows. You're going to hear somebody today. I don't know where it's going to come from. It's going to come out of this state. But you're going to hear somebody today rip it. See, Shane, that's how you do it. Lamont's doing a better job. Lamont is making – Shane should be embarrassed looking at Lamont.
No one would do that. That's kind of tired. No one would do that.
I mean, again, as if they're not two entirely different sports, recruited and played two entirely different ways, impacted in entirely different ways by the area you're in.
But you're right. Being labeled a basketball school seems to be considered a slight.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't get it. I don't understand why that is said. Like, even with all due respect, I love the guy, but even Spur Daddy, like the way he said it made it sound like, I guess we just got to embrace that we're second-class citizens. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm not going to sit here and argue, basketball is more popular than football. No, it's not. It's obviously not. Football's king. And I'm not saying that you should just give up on your football program and put your resources into basketball. What I'm saying is utilize it, man. Utilize it as an asset. Utilize it, the national time that Lamont is getting you. And again, it's 2 big wins in a week. Let's not pretend that they've made the Final Four. That's 2 big wins for a team that was expected to be dead last in the conference. You're going to have the conference coach of the year. Utilize that momentum to make every program there better. Utilize the spotlight while it's on you. I'm also very optimistic that Lonzo is about to smoke this sports flash.
Wow. Wish I had that optimism. South Carolina Gamecocks men's basketball team took down another ranked team last night as they defeated the 5th-ranked Volunteers of Tennessee 63-59. Talon Cooper scored 18 points. BJ Mack had 16 points, and Miles Stute knocked down 4 free throws in the final 28 seconds to seal the upset. The question is, will they remain unranked? We'll see. Clemson held serve at home, knocking off Louisville 70-64. Clemson led by as many as a dozen in the second half before Louisville scoring run brought it to within 4 with a half a minute to play. PJ Hall led all scorers with 25. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as Furman men's basketball team, try not to cough, takes on the Citadel right here on your home for Paladins football and basketball, The Fan, Upstate. Whew. I can't shake the crud. I can't shake the crud. I apologize for the horrible read. I probably won't do any better, though.
I've gotten, over the last day, like 9 tweet texts from people who found a DJ who put together a house version of Creed's One Last Breath. Like, this is your wedding banger. Hang on. I'm going to put us on mute for a second so I can play it for Lonzo. We'll be right back. I mean, we're not going anywhere. I'm just going to mute it.
I mean,
All right, we're back.
The mix is great.
It's a
It's
banger.
just, but it's like taking a depressing, heartfelt, inward look song and making it a dance song. Maybe I'm overthinking it because lyrics mean something, man. Whether I like something or not will not deter you from using.
I mean,
something,
I
so.
see that song. It seems to me that song is about hanging on to belief and positivity despite everything going wrong.
No, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet. He's trying to decide whether he wants to kill himself.
Sad
or
eyes
not.
follow me, but I still believe there's something left for me. So please come stay with me because I still believe there's something left for you and me, for you and me, for you and me. Like there's, I think it's a song about hanging on. I like it, Luke. I like it. See, I'm the same way, man. It's a great sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great sport.
Yeah. Okay, that works. I said it real fast, hoping no one would notice that I didn't know how to say it, but I appreciate it. All right, thank you. No problem. Bye.
What'd you say? I didn't have it on the stage.
So it's Talon.
Yeah.
And I just said it really fast. It's like Talon. I'm still gonna say it really fast.
What'd you say, Talon?
I didn't, but Talon sounds cooler to me. But hard to believe that I mispronounced anything that has lawn in it. But I just how does that even do that? That's weird.
Our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show, the Money Hour, starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob and the Great One with you here on the Witness and Pitch Show. Be a part of the program, 844-326-3663. Text us 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. Texter said, who ought to be having an O moment is Bradley B. at Clemson. The new kid on the block is showing him how it's done early and often. Yes, Clemson beat them early, but SC has the mo and the Tigers have the no-show. Clemson got a double SI over a bad Louisville team, but held serve at home. So I can ask for it, right? Let the Cardinals make it closer than it needed to be at the end. But it's college basketball, right? It's college basketball. You're going to have some games, and Clemson got it done last night too. And yes, Clemson does have the heads-up victory in the Palmetto Basketball, which is a name I just came up with, and I very much like it.
You're so excited to do that.
And as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
The basketball. I like it. The Palmetto Basketball. Anyway, I hate this conversation about Brad Brownell. I hate it. And it's not because it's not a legitimate conversation to have. It's because I had this conversation on this radio show before I had the job to do this radio show, right? I had this conversation on my show when I auditioned, when I got here. The boss man, when I did my 2 4-hour auditions, well, I guess at the time, 3-hour auditions here on the show, was like, I need you to do some local stuff. Here's a couple of topics. And one of them he gave me was, is it time to move on from Brad Brownell? That was in 2020, which was 7 years ago, right? Same conversation we're having now. But I do wonder if failure to make the tourney this year, which, by the way, I'm not worried about right now. I think Clemson's going to get in. I think there needs to be a signature win. You're going to have to knock off North Carolina. I think you're going to have to be perfect against everybody who's not a top 3 team in the conference right now. I think it's a good year for Brad to get in. I think everything kind of lines up for you. But if he doesn't, like, where is the tripping point for Clemson? Where is he's a nice guy, but, especially as we watch the crosstowners having the season they're having, where's the line where we go, okay, we can't let them outpace us? Or is that a line? Or does anybody even care? We'll see. We'll talk more about Clemson basketball later on in the radio broadcast. But it is 7 a.m., dudes and dudettes. You're less than an hour away from getting clocked in at work. And if you're like me, that means that you're like an hour and 15 minutes away from taking your first break, because all you want to do is stand around and talk sports with your buddies, with your coworkers, right? And if you do that, you're going to need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, yeah! First bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is your water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you go start talking sports with your coworkers around said water cooler today. Let's dive right in with item number 1. Clemson gave up 29 points to Trey White last night of the Louisville Cardinal. They made it closer than they needed it to be, allowing the Cardinal to outscore them by 6 in the second half. But they outscored the Cardinal by 12 in the first half. Clemson gets a 70-64 win at the house last night. It comes on the back of 25 points from the big man, P.J. Hall. 9 of 20 shooting, 0 of 6 from range for P.J. The ball was not going down as easily as P.J. Hall would like. They asked him at the end of the night in the postgame. They said, hey, real bad night shooting. You still ended up with 25. You still ended up becoming Clemson's 15th highest all-time scoring player. Talk to us about the win. And he said, look, wasn't coming off my hand the right way, right? There was just something weird about the roll off the hand. But at the end of the day, my dudes trust me with the rock. My dudes trust me to make moves down low. My dudes trust me to make plays. And I was not going to stop trying to make plays. PJ also came up with 5 boards and assists and a block in that game. 2 others, Hunter and Gerard III, also ended up with double figures, 16 and 13, respectively. Just 5 points off the bench for Clemson last night, but it was more than enough to get the dub at home. They moved to 14-6, 4-5 in conference at this point, and it's an interesting slate coming up next. For Clemson. They have got a Virginia team that I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, folks are sleeping on this Virginia team, all right? I think people are looking at a 15-5 record and thinking, not that great. You're sleeping on this Virginia team. I am also going to tell you that while the top may not look as dominant as it has in years gone by, the ACC might be the deepest basketball conference in America right now. It has got some good teams in it. So there's definitely a interesting stretch coming up for Clemson. Virginia in 2 nights, then you're on the road at North Carolina, then you're at Cuse, back home for Miami, back home for NC State, on the road at Tech. Tech knocked off UNC last night, then back to the house on the 24th to take on the Noles. That is a really interesting 7-game stretch coming up for Clemson. I think you've got to go 5-2 through it, right? The at North Carolina win would be a signature win. Tough win to get, but it can be got. They lost to Tech last night. Gonna need a signature win somewhere. last night set you up with some momentum going down that stretch. That's good news. And sticking with Palmetto State basketball, 63-59 winners go the Gamecocks last night on the road at number 5 Tennessee. BJ Mack had 16 points, most coming playing bully ball down in the paint. He also had 7 out of 8 from the free throw stripe. You also had Tellon Cooper, 18 points on 6 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 5 from deep, including 1 with 40-ish seconds left to play. It was not the dagger. It felt like the dagger at the moment, right? If you're watching that game, he dropped that 3 from range with like 44 left to play, and it felt like the dagger. Tennessee fought back. They also responded with the big 3. Their guard Connect had a night last night, 31 points for him on 11 of 24, 3 of 8 from deep. That dude was a momentum builder for Tennessee. But I saw what I wanted to see out of the Gamecocks last night. When Tennessee started to run, when the crowd came alive, especially late in the game, this team went head down. This team did not lose its cool. This team did not panic. There was a spot I thought they were going to, right? Had a quick turnover after an inbounds. I'm like, uh-oh, this one's going to sting. My ask was, can you make it competitive? This one's going to sting if they let Tennessee come back and get the dub here, because you didn't make it competitive. You controlled the game almost start to finish. So I got a little concerned about that. Didn't matter. They answered. They answered in a big way. 63-59, the Gamecocks win on the road. Let's go to item number 2. Carolina Panthers have hired their new offensive coordinator. His name, Brad Idzik. He is was the wide receiver coach down at Tampa Bay. He followed Canellis from Seattle to Tampa Bay to coach wide receivers last season. He will join him for another season in Carolina. However, the Carolina Panthers did go out of their way to make sure that it was abundantly clear that Dave Canellis will be the play caller for the Carolina Panthers, the same as he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Idzik, just to make me self-loathe a little bit more, Lonzo, is 32 years old.
Good for him.
I mean, yeah, for sure. 32 years old. Will not be the play caller, but, and we talked about this yesterday, I didn't need a play caller at OC. We know Canellis was going to be the play caller. What I needed out of an OC was a guy to coordinate and to cultivate the culture. That's what I was looking for. Somebody that could build culture, somebody that could build a cohesive offense. And I'm not talking about the X's and O's. I'm talking about the Jimmies and the Joes. Somebody that could get in there, get this team on the same page, and make sure that if you start 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, the team doesn't go, oh, bleep, here we go again, and fall apart. And from what I've read about this cat, who is young, who is new to the game, from what I understand, he is very, very good about connecting with players, about having a personal relationship with the players, about building that within the locker room. And that's what I was looking for.
Most importantly, he knows Canellis' system. So he doesn't have to be taught, I want this done this way, this type of thing. They already have a connection. He brought him here for that reason. So that's got to help a great deal too.
For sure. And again, we have talked about what is the biggest weakness on this team. To me, it was a wide receiver room. Not because it was the worst players.
Ownership, but
besides that, I meant the team itself. To me, it's the wide receiver room. Not that there are bad they are. They're not. It's not that they're bad wide receivers.
I don't know. The line is not playing really well.
No, the line stinks too, for sure.
The tight ends didn't step up like they should. Quarterback play was down. I think there's a lot of places you could go.
I don't disagree. Okay, let me rephrase it then. Let me set it up a different way. What's the biggest problem? The biggest problem for me was the wide receiver room. Because here's the thing. The offensive line, we know had the talent to be successful because it was almost the exact same line that did it the year before, and at the end of the year looked pretty good. Last 6 games of the 22 season, the team looked pretty good offensively.
They also had a better running back tandem.
Yes.
Statistically, you got to say for sure.
I think with
Foreman, I thought he and Hubbard together was a pretty good tandem.
I agree. You overpaid for Miles Sanders, who did not perform last year. I'm not going to disagree. Chuba Hubbard kind of came on as the season progressed. I honestly would like to see more out of last year.
I mean, Chuba had to because Sanders wasn't doing anything.
You're not wrong. But I still think, especially in terms of developing a young quarterback, a rook quarterback, having somebody that can do something out wide is a big deal. Well, is the wide receivers coach for Canellis down there at Tampa. And while he did walk into a spot where he was being asked to coach effectively the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL, with the exception of maybe Philadelphia, this dude has now worked with the wide receivers in the system. This guy's going to understand how to get them up, whether they get new wide receivers or not, and they need to. This guy's going to understand how to work with them within that Carolina system to give them a better chance of succeeding, and more importantly, to give Bryce Young a better chance of succeeding. Item number 3. We know about the lawsuit that Florida State has filed against the Atlantic Coast Conference. In that lawsuit, they accused the ACC of negotiating for their own betterment, not for the betterment of the membership of the conference. Yesterday, they upped the game. Yesterday, they said it with their chest. FSU has added an addendum to their lawsuit. And in this one, they specifically called out former ACC Commissioner John Swofford. Now, I will tell you, as somebody who covered this team up close and personal when I worked down in the Florida Panhandle, FSU and Miami, and Clemson fans, you may feel this way too. It's a question I will ask you because I don't really know. But FSU fans and Miami fans have for years accused ACC leadership of having a bias towards the North Carolina-based schools. They have accused the ACC of having a bias towards the basketball schools. They have made the argument for years. That is why not only is the ACC based in North Carolina, they just moved to Charlotte. The ACC basketball tournament is in Greensboro every year, despite there being bigger and better places within the ACC footprint to hold that basketball tournament. Why is it not played in Miami? Why is it not played in Boston? Why is it not played in Charlotte, right? Now they are specifically naming John Swofford, somebody who has direct connections to North Carolina. John Swofford spent the majority of his administrative and professional career as the athletic director at North Carolina Chapel Hill before he became the ACC commish. And now FSU is directly pointing the finger at him. In fact, we know what they are saying. They accuse Swofford and his son Chad of basically taking advantage of the grant of rights negotiations a number of years ago for their own betterment. Why? Because one of the partners in the grant of rights agreements is Raycom Sports. Raycom Sports, when they got a deal done to be part of the ACC's grant of rights deal, Raycom Sports had a particular employee that FSU is now calling out. Who is it? Chad Swofford. Chad Swofford was a high-ranking employee at Raycom Sports at the time that his pops was the commissioner of the ACC. Raycom had a long partnership with the ACC, but was struggling financially. If they did not get a piece of the pie in the ACC grant of rights, Raycom would have likely gone under. Chad Swofford worked for Raycom at the time. Shortly after the ACC grant of rights deal got done and Raycom was a beneficiary of it, Chad Swofford got promoted to vice president and general manager of Raycom Sports in its entirety. Now, Causation does not equal correlation. That does not directly mean that the reason that Chad Swafford was promoted to VP and GM of Raycom Sports is because his dad signed a deal that got Raycom a piece of the pie. But the timing is certainly coincidental enough that FSU picked up on it and brought it forward. As a result of that deal, ESPN sublicensed a package of Tier 2 and 3 rights content to Raycom Sports for $50 million annually. Florida State said in their complaint that the package, quote, provided Raycom with more marketing and media rights than it had before, including syndication, ACC properties, and all digital rights, end quote. FSU alleges in the lawsuit that Swafford engineered the partnership, quote, for the benefit of Raycom Sports, end quote, and added a note that said, quote, the Raycom Sports partnership has cost each ACC member several $1 million and continues to depress the value of their media rights and the cost and success of their prestige network through today, end quote. So this is interesting because FSU with the lawsuit had said a number of times, hey, yo, look, the ACC negotiated in a way that did not maximize the potential profit for the schools within the ACC footprint and therefore was negligent, damaged us, directly damaged us, right? Directly impacted us, directly had a negative impact on not just us, but every school in the ACC. And I think it's been fair to ask over the last year that this lawsuit has been a thing. I think it is fair to say, why, FSU? Why? How did it, well, like, why are we here? How did this happen? What happened? And now FSU has answered the question, right? Now they've answered the question. John Swafford, who has been accused for years by fans of the ACC schools, at least in Florida, of showing unmitigated bias towards the North Carolina-based schools, and of course was the AD at UNC Chapel Hill for years, gave a partnership, gave a piece of the grant of rights to a little network that is not nationally known, to own a significant chunk of rights to ACC broadcast. And oh, by the way, his son, who worked at that network, then immediately got promoted to VP and GM of said network. Look, I don't know if FSU's right or wrong, and I don't know if FSU can prove it. What I do know is I'm going to be watching this lawsuit very closely because this just, to me, spiced it up a lot. We'll talk more about it later on in the radio show, but that's your water cooler cheat sheet. Top 3 sports items you need to know before you get to work today. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I want to dive a little further into this. Do you think that this creates any more momentum for FSU to win this lawsuit? And it is important to y'all. And by y'all, I mean literally everyone listening. Because you're a Clemson fan. If FSU has a point and they win this lawsuit, it expedites you're leaving the ACC because you want to follow. You just can't yet. If you're a South Carolina fan, it's very possible, not probable, but possible. Clemson could end up in your conference in the next few years. You think it's difficult now to grow the football team? Imagine if the team across the street is right there in that conference making the same money as you. We're talking about all that and more as the Rob Brown Show continues right here on the Fan Upstate. It's hot here.
It's not true.
It's not true that it's hot in here?
No. It says only one station is carrying.
Oh. All right, guys, I'm going to go replace the beverage. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. right, guys. Thanks for hanging in there, man. How's everybody? Kobe.
So I think on my calf is now a hole. Probably.
You should probably go have that looked
Yeah, I
at, pal.
probably should. It hurts really bad.
Yeah, you should definitely go get that looked at.
So is it a hole caused by teeth? I mean, I don't know. Or a sting? Did I get bit by a recluse or something? My leg's gonna fall off.
It all comes down to this. Super Bowl 58. Listen live from Westwood One on the free Odyssey app. The Kansas City Chiefs. Takes the snap. Turns the pass. Intercept. Caught by Kelsey. Wrapped to the ground at the 12. And the San Francisco 49ers. Have a comeback for the ages. The 49ers are going back to the Super Bowl. Wherever you are next Sunday, stream Super Bowl 58 with Westwood One on the free Odyssey app. Download it today and search Super Bowl. AUDACY.
Sponsored by ChumbaCasino.com. Welcome to the ultimate playground for online social casino enthusiasts. Get ready to live the Chumba life and play over 100 online casino-style games for free at ChumbaCasino.com.
I'm concerned about that, James, but Rob is not. That's a great question, Trey.
Yes, as a Law and Order SVU fan, I have no doubt that there are some writers that were very closely following that story.
Law and Order, the Vince McMahon episodes.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. Robin Lonzo with you. I read through 4, 5, 6 different write-ups of this FSU development from yesterday. And I'm going to tell you, I actually think this is kind of a big deal, right? I think this is kind of a big deal. I am getting very made-for-Netflix movie vibes off this right now. Here's what I mean. If you did not hear it during the water cooler cheat sheet, here's the setup. FSU had filed a lawsuit against the Atlantic Coast Conference. It was, at least on its surface, it felt like a Hail Mary to try and come up with anything they could to break up the GOR, to get out of the GOR, to get their broadcast rights back, and to be able to move out of the ACC. Remember, a big chunk of the problem, the reason that the exit fees and breaking the GR was so difficult is that the ACC outright owns the rights to FSU and the other ACC members' television broadcast. So not only do you have to break it, but you have to figure out how to get those rights back. It was a big deal. This is, I think, the first thing that FSU has put on this lawsuit that makes me go, they might actually have a claim here, right? The claim has been that the ACC mismanaged the negotiations in the last grant of rights agreement in a way that they made negligent tens of millions of dollars, that they were negligent, and it cost tens of millions of dollars out of the coffers of every ACC member. And while that's a fine argument, I would need, in order for me to take it serious enough that I believe a judge would have something to say about it, I would need you to put something on the table that illustrated that, right? It's one thing to make a claim. It's another thing to make a specific claim and to put dates and times and numbers and figures down on the paper that make you go, all right, you got a point here. You got a point here. And I think this is one. I think this is one. John Swofford is a former commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference. John Swofford, before that, was the athletic director at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. For as long as I have been covering member institutions of this conference, Florida State and Miami when I worked in Florida, Clemson now, one of the few things that I think has tied together the member institutions of the ACC is a dislike of John Swofford. Feeling that John Swofford always kind of tilted the Atlantic Coast Conference towards the basketball schools, North Carolina, Duke, Wake, NC State, etc., towards the schools in North Carolina. But it's always kind of been like a narrative, right? It's always been one of those things that some ACC street fans will say, oh, Swofford does this, that, and the other. And you go, all right, how? What do you mean by that? What has he done that you would lean on as your example of that? And more often than not, you get a bunch of people that are like, well, I don't know specifics. I just know he does it, right? Florida State said, I got a specific for you. So nuts and bolts, in case you missed it in the last segment, is this. When John Swofford was the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference and was negotiating this grant of rights agreement, his son was an employee of Raycom Sports. Raycom is a little sports network that has been in partnership with the ACC for many years. This is true. But as we have learned in college football over the past decade or so, long-term affiliations don't mean a damn thing in the face of the almighty dollar. Am I right, Pac-12? Am I right, Big 12?
What's Pac-12 and Big 12?
Well, the Big 12 is still a thing. It's just not the same thing.
Who's in it?
Not Texas and Oklahoma. The reality of college football as we know it now is that you got to look out for number one. Long-time affiliations don't mean anything anymore. So Swofford's son was an employee at Raycom Sports, a long-time partner of the ACC. And when the GOR was negotiated with John Swofford at the helm, Raycom Sports caught about a $50 million benefit out of it. They got some of the rights for tier 2 and 3 sports. These are obviously, your cross countries and swimming and diving. But they caught enough that ESPN hooked them up with a $50 million deal to broadcast those events. Shortly after that took place, John Swofford's son got promoted within Raycom Sports to be their vice president and general manager. Now,
you don't know that he's not a go-getter, merited being promoted?
That is correct. That is correct. That promotion may have been in the works.
You're not going Nepo baby, crazy, right?
Yes, I am. Because I think it is fair. I think it's a fair accusation. I do think it is going to be very difficult for FSU to prove that the promotion of one Chad Swofford was directly tied to this. But what Florida State has done is establish that in an age where the SEC and the Big 10, frankly, the Big 12, we're seeing their member contributions increase by tens of millions of dollars at a time. The ACC's GOR did not, but was locked in long-term, and a little bitty network that had historic connections to the ACC, but not wildly valuable ones, picked up a pretty hefty chunk of the ACC's broadcasting rights. And then shortly after, the son of the commissioner was promoted to VP and GM after that GOR got done. I don't think it is an unfair thing for FSU to bring to the table to go, all right, so hang on, let me get this right. While the Big Ten and the SEC are leaving us in the dust in terms of member benefits, they are absolutely lapping us in terms of the amount of money flowing from the conference to the schools. We had an opportunity to get more money as well. We had an opportunity to try to create a GOR that was going to keep up. I don't think you were ever going to be in the same ballpark as the SEC and the Big Ten, but, you know, if you could keep Florida State and Clemson and Miami within 10, 15, maybe $20 million a year of what the other schools were bringing in, I don't think they'd be unhappy. They are well behind that now, right? To the tune of $40+ million a year. That's significant. So the son of the guy negotiating the GOR is in a position of power at a place where he is negotiating the GOR. The GOR is very network friendly to the place where the commissioner's son is employed. And then after that GOR is signed, a very network friendly GOR, that young man suddenly gets a promotion to be one of the most powerful people at that network. I mean, listen, if you wrote this story out for television, it'd be a damn good show.
If you wrote it out for television, you would write The Rock in as a new executive, and immediately his daughter becomes general manager.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. Lonzo nailed it. This is a pro wrestling storyline that is playing out to the chagrin and possible detriment of a bunch of college football athletic departments, right? Like a bunch of them. And so Florida State is arguing, John Swofford kind of kept it in the family here, didn't he? Old Chad kind of got the benefit of being a Nepo baby here, didn't he? Because you're making the argument, if you're Florida State, that if John wasn't the guy who had ultimate authority over the GOR, and if his son wasn't a big-time player at Raycom, then the rights that Raycom got could have gone somewhere else for more money that would have added to the the benefits. I was going to say beneficiaries, but it would have added to the beneficiary payout of the conference itself. But that's not what happened. Raycom got a network-friendly deal. Florida State's going to argue that it took away from the total payout of the member institutions, and that is the negligence, that is the reason the GOR should be stricken, knocked down, sent away. And if that is the case, I got to tell you, I think it's the first time FSU actually has a pretty good argument here. I'm reading right now through, and I know that this is irrelevant to the court case, but I'm reading right now through a couple of different message boards. I have been since this morning about fan reactions to this. And a large percentage of people in an ACC message board that I'm on right now are like, kind of a good argument. Kind of a good argument, right? And I think they're right. I think it is. I think it is fair to question, did Raycom get this deal because John, the only guy that was the final authority on the deal, signed a deal with John's son, who was a power player at Raycom at the network in question, who then immediately got a promotion to one of the most powerful spots within that network? Could that have been a Raycom pat on the back? Hey, Chad, great work getting us this ACC deal. Great work getting us that deal that keeps us viable. Why don't you take the big office, fella? Why don't you take that corner office? You know, the one with the window and the view. No reason. No reason. This is real interesting. Like I said, I'm looking through an ACC message board on Reddit right now. And here's the top note. The top comment, with hundreds of people upvoting in agreement is, quote, see FSU, this is how you get the rest of us on board. These are Carolina fans. These are Miami fans. These are Clemson fans. Another commenter, I'm now best friends with FSU. Just don't check my post history. Another fan, Georgia Tech fan, this is what I expected to see brought up initially. Another fan, a Boston College fan, throwing out, oh, look, here comes the NCAA with more NIL investigations, totally coincidentally and completely not purposely aimed at Florida State. Another fan saying, if FSU had played the bleep Swafford angle earlier, they probably would have been able to depend on NCSU voting with them. Another texter, the ACC can eat boat. FSU will absolutely win this thing by getting it settled. I mean, these are fans from across the conference saying, yo, hold up now. Hold up now. Florida State's got a point. And Lonzo, I think they do. I think it's going to be like they may catch a judge that goes, I'm going to need you to prove. But I mean, at the end of the day, on paper, the guy who had the authority signed a deal with the network his son worked at. That was not a good deal. And then the son immediately got a promotion to vice president of that company. That kind of feels to me like, if nothing else, it's at least worth a pretty thorough investigation. If you are the attorneys representing FSU / let's be honest, every other ACC school that wants out, now I'm absolutely going to Raycom and going, hey, discovery time. I would like to see all of the paperwork involving the deal, the grant of rights. I would like to see the emails of Chad Swafford. I would like to see the emails leading up to Chad Swafford's promotion. I would like to see the contracts signed by Chad Swafford, both with the conference and with you. I would like to talk to the HR managers and the folks responsible for giving Chad Swafford this promotion. I am deep diving because if I can come up with even a real good argument that Raycom only got this deal because Daddy John and Buddy Chad hooked up, Nepo babied it over a Thanksgiving Day dinner and signed the deal, and that's why this deal got done. If I'm a judge, now all of a sudden I can go, yeah, that's a bad reason to sign the deal. That's not the right way to handle that for the beneficiary of multiple other athletic departments. Y'all, I think FSU just made their first big wave. I think FSU just made a real big wave. And the fact that now across one of the bigger ACC message boards I follow, there are tons of fans jumping in going, you had my intention. Now you have my interest. Or flip it around. However that Django quote goes. Point is, I think FSU just made noise with this. So we'll keep an eye on that. Texas said, Rob, kudos for doing the research and taking the time to understand and helping listeners, me, understand this situation at FSU. I really do think a lot of people up front were like, FSU, you bunch of whiny ass babies. Just suck it up and deal with it with like the rest of us, right? You're just salty that you didn't make the playoffs. Guys, this has been going on for far longer than that. FSU's salt was not because they didn't make the playoffs. FSU's salt was, we didn't make the playoffs because of this, right? Y'all were mad at us for this, except for they just walked in, and as far as I am concerned, threw a haymaker at the ACC. Texter said, you're saying the same thing over and over for the past 30 minutes. Move on. No, it's my show. And I don't think, listen, this may not interest you. Like you may talk about, tell me what color socks Clemson's wearing tomorrow. I mean, if that's what you want, I'm not your show, okay? This, to me, is a major story for the future of this conference, a conference whose future has a major impact on half, if not more, of my listening audience. You may not love this. This story is enormous, dude. The story's enormous. We got to take a break. We are back after this, where I may or may not drop it. Texter, We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I mean, this is a big story, right? Like, I know it's maybe not the most intriguing thing if you just want sports. Or am I overestimating how important it is? I feel like it's a big story.
I say do you, and don't worry about one text. What I got out of the story is don't be related to someone and try to get a job because immediately you'll be suspect.
Say that again.
Don't be related to someone in power
Oh, yeah.
because Rob will immediately think you got your job.
No, listen, here's what I think. If Raycom can come out and prove that Chad Swafford had excused himself from negotiations because of a conflict of interest, then they're fine. But if Chad was at the forefront of these negotiations, now you have a problem. Just prove that he had not been involved in this, and you're fine. James, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that, man. I don't see how this isn't something that's important to talk about.
Not a direct story about the teams in the area.
Oh, this has a direct impact on
I know
Clemson.
what you're saying, but neither team is involved. I'm just trying to give you perspective.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Average listener commute time is probably like 20 to 25 minutes. Sometimes you get the luck of the draw and you get a story that you don't like.
Attention taxpayers. If you or your business owe the IRS back taxes or have years of unfiled tax returns, the IRS has green-lighted billions of dollars in tax relief to those facing financial hardship through its tax relief initiatives. If you have a delinquent tax problem and possibly facing wage garnishment.
Yeah, that guy on that commercial is very excited about meat. Which, let's be honest, it's a good thing to be excited about.
You must have spent a lot of money on ads because we're getting them.
Dude, really?
That's basically a meat truck.
That's the sexiest phrase in the world right there. Meat truck. Dude, if I wrote that commercial, that's exactly what I'd say. Come see our meat truck. It's meat in a truck. Dude, are any of you capable of having like a daily schedule, like an hour by hour breakdown of your day that you can keep to consistently?
You know I am.
Like,
You see me do it every single day.
no, like I know like you're like at work, but like when you get home, are you like, okay, 6 to 7 is this time, 7 to 8 is this time, 8 to this, 8 o'clock to 8:30 is reading, 8:30 to 9 is video games, 9 to 9:30 is whatever. Like,
why would you want to do that? Because that's making home work. Home should be relaxed and
that's how I feel.
yeah, and do whatever you do.
That's why
I mean, unless you have chores or things that you have to get done.
I'll tell you next break, Ramani, I'll tell you why I asked that question. There's a reason for it. Texture said, we all know the host is an FSU fan. No surprise the show is stuck in neutral. Move on, man. I don't think you, and I'm not going to say you because I know a lot of you do, but, phraseology. I don't think you understand how big this is, right? I did not hammer on the FSU lawsuit before today because I was going, they're going to have a real hard time proving damage, right? I've spoken to lawyers, friends and related of mine, about this lawsuit from their perspective. And the common thread amongst most of them is just because you have a claim that makes sense on the surface doesn't mean you're going to be able to prove damage. And you've got to be able to prove damage, right? You've got to be able to prove you have been injured. Financially, physically, whatever, emotionally, in order to win this lawsuit. You've got to be able to prove that there was negligence that caused damage. But forget that. Why is this a big deal? Why am I hammering on about this? Guys, this impacts everybody, right? This is the best argument that has been brought forward. And at a point in time where we just watched in real time the demise of the Pac-12, right? We watched a conference die last year. Not like a slow last few breaths of air. We literally, going into that Washington national championship game, we were watching the death of a conference, and we all knew it. It's real time. I am telling you right now, this element of the lawsuit, this with Florida State that just got brought up, this to me is almost of equal weight to when all those Pac-12 schools last year had, what we have like 2 or 3 days? Like 2 or 3 days where you had 8 schools all say, yeah, we're out, we're gone. We'll see you next year, Michigan. We'll see you next year, Pac-12, we're out. Yeah, in real time. This to me has equal weight. This to me has equal weight. This to me is a moment that I think there is potential. I'm not guaranteeing, but I think there is potential that within a year or two, we're going to get the notification. Your phone's going to get the ping with a message that says, judge determines ACC grant of rights unenforceable. School's now free to exit the conference. And we're gonna see schools exit the conference.
Game over.
And I understand that a lot of you feel like you're not impacted by this, right? This is one of those times, respectfully to the texters, where I think people tune into the show and go, well, he's not talking about a thing that impacts me and my fandom, so it's a bad show. All right, like not everything's about you. This to me is about you. This is about Clemson, because I'm telling you, if FSU finds a way to prove that the ACC was negligent and a judge gets the idea in his head that the GOR is unenforceable and allows FSU to exit, Clemson's in the back pocket going with them.
I think you kind of missed something as far as Clemson goes. Clemson fans don't want to leave the ACC. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't. They do not. They're king in the ACC. Why would they go somewhere else where there'll just be another team? Yeah, no. Clemson fans don't see the money. They don't know. No, the team itself may want to. The school itself may want to, but Clemson fans do not want to go anywhere.
Well, then, respectfully, doesn't really matter what the fans want, does it? Doesn't really matter.
Well, when the fans have
to
something to do with NIL, when the fans have something to do with boost,
they're not. Are they going to stop? Are they going to go, oh, we're not in the ACC, we're not giving money to the NIL anymore? Hell no.
Probably,
Hell no.
They're probably not. But again, I don't know of an ACC fan or a Clemson fan rather who would go, yeah, I want to go to the SEC. Find me one.
Let me rephrase that then. It doesn't matter. I gotta get a rock drop.
How do we not have rock drops?
I don't know. It doesn't matter what you want. I am telling you, of all the things I've said, here's the one thing I will say is a fact. If Florida State, if this claim that FSU, if this addendum to the lawsuit just broke it, if a judge somewhere says you are right, there was inappropriate nepotism in the signing of this contract, therefore it's unenforceable, and you're out, and then an appeals court somewhere, because you know the ACC is going to appeal the ruling, and then an appeals court goes, no, that judge was correct, the GOR is unenforceable, and FSU, you're free to go, Clemson's gone too. It doesn't matter if the fans want or don't want or care or don't care about what conference they're in. They're gone because a $40 million a year raise by going to the Big Ten or the SEC is attractive enough to go. They're gone. They're out immediately. They'll exit on the same day as Florida State. And that doesn't just mean that this impacts the Clemson fans. It impacts everybody. If Clemson goes to the Big Ten, will there be a discussion about dropping the rivalry game with South Carolina or vice versa? Could Clemson, I don't think this is the case, but could Clemson catch an invite to the SEC? Could they become SEC members alongside South Carolina? Does that not impact you as Gamecock fans? Could they be split from some of their ACC rivals? There's a lot to this that has to be discussed, I think. Couple of texts real quick. Texture said, even if the fans in Clemson didn't want to go, everybody else in that conference would go so fast, there wouldn't be anybody left in the conference with Clemson. That is correct. They would get Oregon Stated. That is correct. Texture said, gotta love Lonzo speaking for all of us. Let's shut the ACC down. SEC or Big Ten, here we come. Texture said, Clemson is ready to go to the Big Ten and spank the Buckeyes every year. Texture said, Lonzo, that much money, they will absolutely want to leave. Texture said, Zoe, we want to leave, bro. Clemson will be king anywhere.
Delusional people out there. I'm glad you're listening, though. Thank you.
Texture said, it's even harder to prove damage when your best argument is he made millions, but we could have made a couple million more maybe. I don't know, man. Texture said, we do understand and are interested. You're just repeating the same 3 or 4 sentences over and over again. I don't think I am, but hey, maybe I am. Who knows? Texture said, it's always the clowns who want you to move on when the story doesn't directly involve their own personal preferences. Yeah, again, I think people look at this and they don't understand how much this directly connects to them. All right, we got to take a break. Lonzo's got a sports flash, and we're back with the third hour after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Don't make me come over there. The University of Tennessee is the next school under an investigation by the NCAA for NIL violations. This is the second time in 2 years. The current allegations are for level 1 and 2 violations based around the school's primary NIL collective. According to ESPN, Tennessee was fined $8 million for violations last summer. Joel Embiid returned to the floor for the Philadelphia 76ers last night and was forced to leave again after suffering a knee injury late in a loss against the Warriors. After scrambling for a loose ball, John Kuminga fell on Embiid's leg. Sounds painful, causing him to leave the game. Embiid is a prime MVP candidate, but can only miss 5 more games before becoming ineligible for personal awards. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman men's basketball team takes on the Citadel right here on the Fan Upstate. It would appear that people don't want me to be the voice of Clemson fans, even though I know them well. Hey, you need to calm down, okay? You're just too angry.
Hype.
We're not about that in the morning here. We're like a Zen place. Us and creepy weather guy. Welcome into the morning Zen place.
James, IT, thank you guys, man. Appreciate that. Encouragement always appreciated.
I'm not going to come over there and pat you on the back.
Please do.
No. Then I'd have to contact HR, or you could. Although if HR is patting you on the back, I mean, then what do you do?
Brag about job security.
I guess.
Somebody said Gamecocks net rating absolutely has to go up right now, right? Or maybe not, because we beat a number 5 Tennessee team on the road, which isn't that impressive because they also lost to a bad South Carolina team at home.
I think it's sound reasoning and might go into whether they're ranked or not. Been trying to think of other instances where you're this kind of school, not a football school, and our high school was a wrestling school, and I guess that meant it's cracking on the football team. Why is the football team the only identifier for sports
Welcome to the
at a
South,
school?
baby.
No,
It just means more.
that had nothing to do with
It
the
just
South.
means more.
I was talking about in Ohio. Hello. I said, yeah, when I was in high school.
Ohio's just the south of the north.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It was south of
Like
Canada. Yeah.
Florida's the north of the south.
Okay.
Ohio's the south of the north.
All right, whatever.
And away we go with our number 3, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show, carries on. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob the Great Malonzo on the ones and twos.
Why are we only going 2 years now? I mean,
Well, because I was like halfway through an intro.
I know. I overstepped
If
there.
I did another I'd run out of breath, I'd have had to stop and pause. It's all about momentum, right?
I'm very sorry, and
It's all good.
I only got my job because of my ditty.
All right, do it again though.
Yeah!
The third hour of the Rob Brown Show starts now. There you go. That felt better. That felt right. That felt good. Sometimes you just got to go for it.
You feel me? For real. Do you feel him, sir?
I do. How you doing, Big Daddy? All right.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
There it is.
You just want me to play that
Yeah.
every day. That just builds your chest puffs out
It
a little
does.
bit.
Dude, it's not bad when you get a premier NASCAR driver hitting you up with, how you doing, Big Daddy?
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
Makes you feel good, you know?
I was there. I saw the look on your
As
face
soon
when
as
he
said
did it.
I'm like, yeah, boy. Speaking of NASCAR, y'all, it's almost 500 season. Here's a question for you. Yesterday Eve, your boy was scrolling around looking for something to watch. I had a couple hours to kill before the South Carolina tip. Lady friend went out for a girls' night last night, so Me and the dog were hanging at the house. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to show prep before the South Carolina game because I want to dial in for that game. Feels big, right? Feels big. I'm real mad at myself for not throwing a couple of coins at South Carolina plus 14.5. You know, I was just like, I don't know, man. On the road, vicious place. If this team hasn't fixed the problems of falling apart in pressure situations, then I would have. I just didn't know. Now I know. Feel a lot better now. Anyway, me and the dog at the house got a couple hours to kill. And so I'm looking through all the streaming services, right? It's just find something. There is a 5-episode docuseries on Netflix now called Drive to Survive. It's about NASCAR. And it follows a number of drivers through last year's playoff run. And I actually really liked it. I've only watched one episode so far, but I really liked it. All right. Now, I will tell you, NASCAR is unfortunately late to the game.
Let me ask you, as far as the doc goes, how would it grab someone who's not a fan? So is it made more for people who are already fans?
I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why. It is much more. I don't want to say reality TV because it's not like reality, right? Like I say, when I think reality TV, I think manufactured scenarios for drama.
Real Housewives.
Right. Survivor.
Not that I've ever watched Real Housewives. I'm just guessing.
Yes.
Kardashians. I don't know.
Manufactured drama where actors ham it up pretending they're real people, right? This one is very, you know what it is? It's Last Dance for NASCAR, right? Like the Last Dance obviously filmed years after the action took place as opposed to while it was taking place, but it's the same concept.
But is Dale Sr., is it based on Dale Sr.?
No, it was
then it can't be Last Dance.
But
Daggum.
I'll tell you right now, has anybody got a good Dale Sr. documentary? I need one. All right. Texas said, you know what it is you're doing, Lonzo. You missed 2 days of work last week because you binged on Housewives, Kardashians, and WWE. You're 33% correct.
I was going to say, yeah, you're partially right.
33% correct.
Actually, I watched like all the Fantastic Beasts.
Texas said,
I literally did as I was laying there sick. I hadn't seen all 3 Fantastic Beasts, and I watched all 3 of those.
I really like the first
one after the other one. Yeah, but then they took Johnny Depp out because and you knew exactly. Then you remember the trial. I
think that's part of the reason I didn't watch the second one. Texas said, don't talk crap about Survivor. That is a fantastic show. Oh, I'm not talking crap about it at all. As a matter of fact, for about a month and a half, if you're a big Survivor guy, this will mean something to you. For about a month and a half down in Pensacola, I hosted a sports show along with Boston Rob, who I didn't know who the hell that guy was.
I was going to say, who the heck is Boston Rob?
I was working for a station down in Pensacola. I got put on the air with a dude, and all I knew was his name was Rob, and he wore I'm a hat guy, I wear a hat every day. This guy wore the same Red Sox hat every day. Didn't matter what the outfit was, Red Sox hat every day. And about 3-4 days into doing the show with this guy, who was not a sports guy, you could tell he was one of those guys that, like, I love the Red Sox, but, like, you'd try to break down Red Sox ball, and he didn't know it. He just wanted to scream, "No, ma!" into a mic over and over.
Which can be pretty entertaining.
Sure.
I mean, if you mix some other stuff in there.
It is. If you have a sports guy and then just a fan, that can make a compelling show. Anyway, I didn't know who this cat was, and, like, 2.5 days into the show, I get a DM from an old co-host of mine, and she was a big Survivor fan, and she's like, dude, why didn't you tell me you're doing a show with Boston Rob? And I'm like, oh, you know him? Why did you, like, I know he's from Boston. She's like, bro, he was like, I don't know if he won Survivor or he was just kind of like a big personality on the show. I didn't know I was hosting with a guy who was apparently like a reality TV star that lasted about a month before that guy sucked and stopped showing up for work. I don't mean sucked like as a person. He was a good dude. He just was real bad on the radio.
There's a Survivor contestant or winner or something that's on Magnolia Network, and she does a bunch of, flipping
Apparently,
houses stuff. So.
If you do a good job on Survivor, it's a gateway to A-star celebrityism.
I guess for some people.
Texas said that's a great story. Boston Rob is a Survivor legend, although I did not see his season. Yeah, I didn't know that when
I will say until this day, I've never heard of Boston Rob before. So
yeah,
I mean,
I didn't know until I was a solid 3 days into hosting with him. Day one came about because we were both judges at a Hooters bikini contest. And then our boss was like, get that guy on our show. He lasted about a month.
He showed the kind of quality that station needed at the Hooters bikini contest.
I'm not going to lie. I did it for a day of free wings and beer, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. Top 3 day in Rob Brown was getting driven in a limo to go be a bikini judge, bikini show competition. What do you call it? Bikini competition judge for Hooters in Pensacola. And my payment was all the Hooters wings and all the cold Miller Lite I could drink.
By the way, Hooters wings are really good.
They're
very good. So is it a bikini contest? Is that a step above wet t-shirt? Is wet t-shirt? I mean, which on levels of?
Let's be clear. The winner of this Hooters bikini contest, the winner of our region, was being flown to Vegas to compete nationally for $1 million prize. I'll let you be the judge. Most of the wet t-shirt contests I've seen, the winner gets like a free 6-pack of Bud Light or whatever it is, right? So I'd say it's a slight step above.
So scales of talent there.
We had like a talent portion and everything. It was like, watch me play the flute in a bikini. But again, Texas said this show has gone off the rails. You must be new here, sir. This is on the rails for us. All right.
I would like to know a show that's on the rails all the time because I'm not listening to that show.
Let me get back where I was. It's fair. Let me get back to where I was.
Can you?
Try. So, point here is, I've only watched one episode. I plan on watching another one when I get home today. But I very much enjoyed. The concept is they took a handful of drivers who made it into the NASCAR Cup playoffs last year, and it followed them through up to and including their elimination from the playoffs. But it wasn't just the drivers. They talked to crew chiefs and pit crew members, and it's kind of a mix of interviews at the track during competition, but also, in their homes away after the thing. Like, all right, talk to me about, your elimination and what happened and yada, yada, yada. And also, it presents the races, like the actual NASCAR races, in a very movie quality style.
What kind of accents are we talking about? I mean, is it deep Southern accent?
No, listen. And
needing subtitles type thing?
No. I'm glad you brought this up, and here's why I wanted to talk about it.
I'm talking about stereotypes here.
Yes, you are.
I know.
Yes, you are. Let me tell you why I appreciated this show. And again, I'm only an episode in, so maybe it changes. But what I like so far is that I think if you can get somebody like Lonzo, who thinks everybody who likes NASCAR talks like this right here.
By the way, I mentioned that out stereotypes. I don't think everyone talks that way. I've heard Jeff Gordon talk.
The drivers that it follows are younger drivers and a pretty wide range of younger drivers, right? Like, for instance, it does not include Chase Elliott, who, if you follow me on Twitter, one of the most aggravating things in the world for me is how every time Chase Elliott is on the TV, somebody has to say NASCAR's most popular driver. They say 9 times NASCAR's most popular driver.
America.
They don't follow him. They follow Denny Hamlin. And it's interesting about Denny because Denny is one of the most winningest drivers of all time on NASCAR, does not have a NASCAR Cup championship. And they talk about that. And he knows, like he says in there, I understand that's an asterisk on me in my career. The fact that I've got all these wins, but I can't get the biggest win of all. It follows Bubba, right? A minority driver on the circuit. It, to me, is NASCAR so far best effort at taking people, and I know Lonzo does it as a joke, but there are a lot of people who don't, taking people who hear NASCAR and they think everybody in the game sounds like this right here, right? And introducing them to a new generation of NASCAR. And I will point out that
were there some people who actually talk like that too?
Not really. I mean, there are people who you can tell are Southern and
okay.
have been in the game
What
for a
I'm
while.
saying is there are Southern accents in there, though.
To some degree,
Because
it's a Southern sport.
You will turn off some fans if they don't hear the Southern accent.
I don't care
because they will think it's not authentic.
But here's the point. That is the goal right now, because what is happening in this sport, and I've talked about this on the show, the biggest problem NASCAR has, the audience is plateaued. It's not shrinking, but it's plateaued. It's not really growing either. So I think over the past couple of years, NASCAR has done something that very few sports are doing. I think NASCAR's done it. I think soccer's done it. And that is saying, how do we extend the demographics here? So what do you do if you're NASCAR? Michael Jordan comes in, 2311 Racing is now a major team. Mike's at games or at races. Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints running back. He owns a cup team, or excuse me, a second level team that he is trying to move up to the top level. You got companies like Spire Motorsports who are bringing their cars to hockey races to try to get people to come over. Exactly. And so they're getting guys like Corey LaJoie, a young up-and-coming driver, in front of entirely new audiences. And I think that this documentary is an extension of that, right? So if you're flipping around on Netflix, you got nothing to watch, you come across it and you're like, not a NASCAR guy, but let me check this out. When you tune it in, if you're expecting every driver to get out there and talk like this right here, that's not what's happening. You are getting to see drivers born in the 2000s who are young and hip and cool, making the way in the sport. Because to me, it's also not just about extending the demo. It's about getting the fans that Lonzo is referencing, the older fans. Here's the difference between NASCAR.
I was getting ready to ask you, those older fans. So like in football or somewhere else, this ain't my sport. This ain't how it used to be. Do older NASCAR fans have that attitude?
I think to some degree, but that's not the biggest problem. I'll tell you what the biggest problem is. With football, no matter how much the game changes, you know the Kansas City Chiefs are playing next year. Doesn't matter who's wearing the helmet. I know that no matter how football changes, the New Orleans Saints are playing next year. The Clemson Tigers are playing next year. And you root for the team. You'll root for guys that play for the team while they're on the team. But at the end of the day, you're not a fan of, per se, Patrick Mahomes. You're a fan of Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? In NASCAR, you have a problem because guys connect to drivers. Now, the drivers are on a team, but you connect to drivers. And so when you get a guy like Jimmy Johnson, who if you're a Cowboys/Yankees/Notre Dame fan, you're a Jimmy Johnson guy. And if you're a Jimmy Johnson guy, when that guy says, that's it, I'm done, and hangs it up, it's not like you can keep being a 48 fan. It's a different world now. You're not a fan of the car. You're a fan of the guy driving it. And so I think what this documentary did a good job of is it didn't say, let's go follow around the guys who have been in the sport for a very long time. Let's go follow around the Busch brothers. Let's go follow around the guys that have been racing for 10, 12, 15 years. It said, let's follow around some of the younger guys. Let's give an opportunity for new fans to connect with the new era of drivers. Let's give an opportunity for the older fans who maybe go, I haven't watched NASCAR since Dale Jr. retired, since Jeff retired. I don't really have a guy. I don't really have a driver that I love to follow anymore. And introduce them on a personal level to the new era of young drivers and allow them the opportunity to connect with somebody who is not only a new driver to them, but is a new driver to the sport or a younger driver in the sport so that they have a rooting interest. Because how many times have I said, it is hard to get into a new sport unless you have a rooting interest. This is why when I try to get people into soccer, you know what I don't do? I don't have their first game be Chelsea versus Everton because there's no rooting interest there. What I do is I try to get them into whatever they're like, okay, you're a Furman guy. Walker Zimmerman's playing for Nashville right now. Let's watch that because you're going to have a connection to Walker Zimmerman. Now you have a connection to Nashville SC. Now you have a rooting interest. Now you care. Or, hey, you've never been to a soccer game. Come with me to a Greenville Triumph game. Come rep your city. Come hype your hometown, your city, and pull for this team. And now not only are you experiencing and learning the game, but you're doing it with a rooting interest. Now you're hooked. That's the drama. Sports needs drama. You've heard me say that since day one on the show. The drama for that is now you got a rooting interest. Now you care about the outcome of matches. Even if you don't know what's going on, you've got a rooting interest in this sport. And I think that's what NASCAR is doing here. And I think it's a good idea. Texas said NASCAR trying to copy what F1 did with their docuseries. Oh, they're not trying to copy it. They're trying to directly replicate it. But here's the thing. A few years ago, I could not have named an F1 fan in my life if you begged me to, right? I didn't know anybody who liked it. Then this F1 Drive to Survive docuseries dropped, right? And after that docuseries dropped, now I have multiple people who get up at like 3 a.m. on a Wednesday to watch an F1 race taking place in Turkey or Italy or whatever. Doug Irwin, president of the CBO of the Triumph, big F1 guy, watches those races. My old mentor, Adam McCloskey, big Dallas Cowboy guy. He's old school Southern sports fan. Now a big F1 guy. Him and his son watch these races together. It is their thing. That worked. Like, that's why I'm saying I'm glad NASCAR is doing it. It is not a fresh new idea. NASCAR's had a few of those. This ain't one. It is not a fresh new idea. But listen, if something works, copy it. If something works, replicate it. I'm in an industry where 90% of what is done on the radio, 90% of what's done on the radio is some variation of something that's already been done on the radio, right? Ordinarily, we do a segment called Overreaction or Make Sense. I flat out stole that from Mario, who flat out stole that from another host in Indianapolis, who I'm sure flat out stole that from somewhere else. I was listening Saturday, CBS Sports Radio. Guy was doing a segment called Buy or Sell. That's the same thing. Replicating something that works is totally fine, right? Especially if it worked real well. F1 saw a surge of American fans after their docuseries came out. So why, if you're another racing outlet that is trying to kickstart a new generation of fans, would you not take advantage of that? Would you not do the same thing? I think it's a great idea. And I think the way they structured it, because this is a sport that when your driver retires, you'll follow a driver team to team and nobody cares, right? I don't know a NASCAR fan who goes, I'm a Roush Fenway guy. No. I'm a Kyle guy or a Kurt guy or a JJ guy. I'm a Corey LaJoy guy, right? I don't care who they drive for. I mean, I do here because Spire. But most fans don't really care who a guy drives for. They just care about the driver. But when that driver quits racing, they don't have, it's not like you line up the next guy like you do in football, where every year the Saints are playing. Every year the Pelicans are playing. The Predators are playing. My favorite team is there regardless of who wears the helmet. NASCAR, it's the exact opposite way around. I don't give a damn about the teams. I care about the driver. That's it. Oh, Kyle Busch is having a pit chief change. I don't care. I care about the guy driving the car.
How do you fix that problem, though? I mean, that's the thing where you can't just.
There's only one way to fix the problem.
So you can't just pick a racing team and just root for that team and whoever their driver is.
I mean, no, I don't think. Like I said, in the history of the sport, or at least as long as I've been watching it, which is about 30 plus years now, I don't think I have ever heard somebody say that wasn't like a family member of the owner or like worked for that company or whatever. Like, I know I got a friend of mine down in Destin. Her dad was on Mark Martin's pit crew back in the day, right? Her dad was a tire changer for Mark Martin back when he raced. And so she's a fan of the team that Mark Martin drove for back when he was racing. But she's the only one I know that's like, I'm a fan of this racing team, not the drivers, but the team. The only way to fix this, if you're NASCAR, is to constantly be giving fans new drivers to connect with. But we don't connect with that. I mean, you connect with an athlete if they have success like Mahomes does. But the majority of us connect with athletes based on what? Their personality away from the sport. We connect with Peyton Manning because he's funny. We connect with Travis Kelce because he's dating Taylor, whatever.
A lot of it is they play for my team, the team I root for.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But you have, I bet, I'm guessing.
You develop likes or
Right.
whatever, like Christian McCaffrey.
You
I mean,
have an
I love
affinity.
Christian McCaffrey, and the fact that he left the Panthers didn't make me like him any less because we understood why he left, and it makes me root
Sure,
for him where
but-
he
but
went. to.
Your affinity for McCaffrey was built largely because of his greatness as a player, but also because of his dedication to a team that gave him not a damn thing
Well,
back.
It's because he was on the Panthers, and the Panthers is my NFC team.
Sure. But then let me rephrase that. Not for Lonzo, but for a lot of us, I think we develop affinities for personalities and success on the field of play. In NASCAR, that's really hard to do, especially in a sport where your guy might win once every 14 weekends out, and that's a good racer, right? So NASCAR said, let's present a new crop of young drivers. So the guys that drivers are aging out, they got somebody new to connect with, invest in, be interested in, and follow. I think it's a great idea. Let's take a break. We'll come back. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
Smith.
All right, guys, another live read, and then we're coming right back. Please stay right. Ah.
It looks like basically a dirt bike, but a 4-wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some kind of fenders and all that kind of stuff.
Look at T2 dropping in the chat for a minute. What's up, big dog?
By the way, Steven, I did watch it yesterday, and I enjoyed it.
My mom texted me. She said, make sure you take time to watch it. She said it was real good. So I will.
From a musician standpoint, how they put everything together and how they make it like they're talking about octaves and we don't need harmony. Anyone who thinks they have to do harmony and they can't hit it, just don't sing.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to the lower tone. I mean, how Quincy Jones does everything.
Musician,
yeah.
I bet it's going to be good.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm not a musician, but if you were a musician, I bet it's going to be good.
Well, you know some people who like play stuff. So
I am a band. I am going home in 2 weeks playing a show. Yes. So speaking of NASCAR talk, Lenny Baticki is going to be joining the show on a weekly basis starting probably next week. He is the host of a very popular NASCAR show that we carry on Saturday mornings.
I knew that name.
Yeah.
So from At the Track.
Yep. He's going to be joining us weekly to talk a little race.
As soon as you said that name, I'm like, man, why do I know that? Maybe because I put that show in every week. Yeah, I'm the one who puts that show in every week. I'm like, okay.
Hold me now. Well, I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking, honey.
Steven, he's Prince. I mean, you know.
I'm gonna
if
tell you right now.
If you expect anything different from Prince, I didn't.
The While My Guitar Gently Weeps, what he did with Petty and the Boys is one of my favorite videos of all time.
Yeah. It's one of the first things I asked you if you had seen when you moved into the office with us, and you had already seen it.
Yep.
And you were already up there because you're a wrestling fan, and it just took you another step up there.
Yeah.
Since then, I don't know what steps we're going up and down, you know.
It's day by day.
Yeah. I know Tim is not listening or watching because he should not be. He just dropped a nice message. Don't make me walk down the hall, dude.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate. Robin Lonzo with you on a beautiful upstate Wednesday morning. Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, two of the hottest potential head coaching candidates available in the National Football League, both yesterday told the teams that had scheduled them for interviews that they were moving themselves out of the pool of head coaching candidates. Hey, Bobby, would you like to be a head coach?
Nope.
Hey, Ben, you want to go coach the Commanders?
Nope.
Yeah, no, for sure. So both of those guys removed themselves from the pool.
I don't know if you heard me snort before I put.
Yes, I did. I think we all did.
Well, I didn't have the mic on, so it must have been pretty loud.
That loud.
Okay.
So this is when I talked yesterday about the Carolina Panthers and responded to the people who said, I feel like the Cats jumped too early. They just got a guy instead of waiting for the guy. I responded by saying, you got to understand that just like playing a stock market, it's a gamble, right? If you jump too early, you absolutely may not get a guy. You may get the guy. But the opposite is true as well. If you jump too late, you may end up with a worse the guy. Because there's three tiers of candidates. There's the top tier that you really want. There's the second tier of guys that maybe they're not your primary targets, but you'd be happy with them. And then there's the third tier of whoever's left over. right? Dave Canellis is a guy that picked up a lot of steam late. But I think if you really looked at the resume of Dave Canellis, it's not the worst hire, right? It's not a bad hire by any stretch. If you were Carolina and you would have held out for Johnson or Slowick, right? And I'm interested to see what Rashad Beard has to say about this tomorrow. If you were holding out for Johnson or Slowick, then you'd have been a real disappointed Carolina fan today, right? And maybe Canellis still would have been available. Maybe, but also maybe not, right? You might have been in a spot where today you're getting breaking news. Carolina has scheduled an interview with Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Dan Quinn, right? Not guys that would have been ideal fits. Or you would have been scheduling interviews with some OC that nobody knows about or wanted.
All right. To me, I have no idea who Canellis is until hearing it on this show. So we'll see. And it is hard to believe that there are two spots open and that arguably the greatest football coach of all time is still out there.
That's not unfathomable to me at all. I've explained the reasons why multiple times. He's a dinosaur and a tyrant. I'm not trying to have that guy run my football program.
Which is why he's going to end up in Seattle and Vrabel's going to be in Washington.
I don't know, man. Like, I could see Vrabel in Washington. That makes more sense. I don't see Hoodie going to Seattle. Think about going from Pete Carroll to Bill Belichick. Those players would lose their minds, right? Could not have two opposite ends of the spectrum if I asked you to name two more opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, no. So, this is why I did not have an issue a week ago when Dave Canellis got named the manager.
All right, so let me ask you this, though. So Canellis comes in, has the same kind of season the last 4 or 5 coaches in the last year have had. And so people start second guessing and say, see, we could have had Vrabel, we could have had Hoodie.
I will start with this. Nothing aggravates me more.
Like we knew that if Bryce Young had the kind of season that he had and CJ Stroud had the kind of season that he had, what a lot of people were going to
Correct.
say.
And we called that at the draft. And I
Right.
said going into the draft, this is why I got so damn frustrated, because I said if CJ kills it and Bryce doesn't, that does not mean that CJ's going to have a better career. It doesn't mean he won't, but it doesn't mean he will.
In the eyes and hearts of a lot of fans, it's exactly what it means. So the thing is,
It doesn't matter. Your opinion is irrelevant to what reality is going to turn out to be, and you don't know what reality is going to turn out to be.
but we love your opinion here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. So please send us your opinion.
Not if it's a crap opinion.
No, I like those too, because chances are what he considers a crap opinion is one that aligns with mine. So, I mean,
Here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it is very easy to dance a dub dance when you're dancing a dub dance about your opinion and not reality. You and I and no one else has an idea of what Bryce Young is going to be. Here's what I know. He was on a toxic team with a toxic owner, a bad coach, and a crap roster. All the things that a quarterback needs, at least mediocrity.
And all the things that were said about Houston before last season. So the thing is, so what happens if Canellis comes in and has the same kind of season that we just saw?
Carolina
There will be
Panther
people
fans-
out there going, Belichick could have done better.
No, he could not have. And I will say that as an opinion. There is nothing that what is
By
he
the
going
way,
to do?
Rob, that's a crap opinion.
Okay. Talk to me about Hoodie's drafts for the last 3 years.
The greatest,
How they've gone.
the greatest coach of all time can get you a few victories.
No, the coach of the greatest quarterback of all time
So,
got some
so
victories.
that's what it comes down to you. Okay,
How's
so-
Hoodie's drafts been the last 3 years? Crap, terrible, awful, no good, very bad draft. Okay, the one thing that is going to
I'm
save
getting you conditioned and getting you ready for what's going to happen if Canellis has a bad
Be in
season.
condition. I've been covering this team 4 years.
Well,
I'm conditioned.
I think you need a little bit more because I don't think you're quite
Hoodie
there
has
yet.
been an absolute boat drafter the last few years. All right. He's drafted a couple of good defensive players and Matt Jones, who, by the way, it's coming out now. The Patriots are not picking up his 5th-year option. And also, everybody on the team hates him. Okay? That's the kind of guy Bill Belichick has been
He
bringing
looks
in.
like snooty frat guy, so I could see why people wouldn't like him.
So, all of those things being said, to me, if Dave Canellis comes out with his new OC, and at this point, I'm just assuming Ejiro Evero staying on as the DC, and they start 0-4, 0-5. I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to get a lot of Panthers fans who are going to go full on panic. We're going to have Diesel out here elbow dropping this team. And I am going to be sitting here at 6 a.m. in week 4 on a Monday going, y'all, please, I'm begging you, relax.
And by the way, I'll be saying, we could have done better if we would have had Belichick.
No.
Just because it's good. That's why I'm conditioning you now, letting you know what's going to happen when it happens, because I do believe that. But the fact that it makes you so angry is going to make me say it more.
Quick question, Lonzo. Why is nobody interviewing Bill Belichick? You're saying of all the teams that had head coaching positions, one interviewed Belichick and then said no and passed on him for a defensive coordinator. Why is no one else in the league even interviewing the guy? Everybody's wrong.
By the way, Rob, I wouldn't pick him as coach. I'm just saying
then what are we talking about?
I'm saying what fans are going to say.
And those fans are wrong.
I do believe that he could do better than any of the coaches that the Panthers have had the last couple of years.
Then why is no one talking to him? No one is talking to him. He's done. There's a reason for
those
that.
are circles neither one of us are privy to. So we don't know. Other than the fact, you could speculate that he as a GM, as was mentioned by James on the stream, check us out, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X. He as a GM, not a very good one, and maybe he wants to do both, and that's the reason why he's not getting the kind of play.
Reason. Good enough reason.
Yeah.
Good enough reason.
Listen, I agree.
So, with all that being said, I am prepared. I know what's going to happen if the Panthers start and have a boat season out the gate.
By the way, if you're that fan that just knows and you bleed the colors and everything, and you believe that the Panthers are going to win a bunch of games next year, prepare for heartbreak.
You'd have said that about Houston this year, right? You just said that. You said that.
That's true. That's true. But I knew C.J. Stroud was going there, and I know he's a really good quarterback. And I've seen what I've seen with Bryce Young. Your blinders are the biggest ones. I mean, it's like walls thick blinders, and you don't see what a lot of other people see with Bryce Young. And I hope you're right. I love to be wrong about it. I hope this kid comes out and kills it this year, which is not his second rookie season. You only get one of those. He had one of those, and it was not a good one. I hope he comes out and kills it. I do. I got Panther gear, not because I went out and bought it for other reasons, because I already had a bunch of it because I'm a Panther fan. They are my NFC team. I've got to go to a ton of NFL training camps, which I never would have gotten to go to. And you get attached to a team when you talk about them all the time. And I want them to do well. They're just not gonna. And like I said, I'm not going to be that guy like I was last year. Yep, they got a shot at the playoffs. I'm not doing that this year.
There's pessimist Lonzo.
No. I'm going to be.
What do you mean? You just said they're going to lose games.
If I could finish, you're just trying to get so angry. If you let me finish, I said I was going to be Robbie Realist. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay.
Because you say it's not pessimism, it's real being a realist. And so I'm trying to follow your lead, the talent's lead over there. I'm trying to follow it, and you won't let me follow it.
All right. Couple of things. We'll start with this. We would have said the same thing about Houston. You know what Houston did that Carolina did not? They went and they found.
They got C.J. Stroud.
They went and they got a young coach who understood how to communicate to a young team, and they drafted guys and brought in guys who were good guys to help Bryce Young. They didn't say, let's get him a 33-year-old slot receiver and call it a day. Let's get him a wide receiver we're going to overpay by about $20 million.
I like how you're cracking on the best receiver on the team that anyone would love to have on their team.
No, they would if they had a T. Higgins. He is not. I don't understand how you don't see that Adam Thielen is a slot receiver, not a one.
Yeah, he
and
is.
The fact that the Carolina Panthers threw him out there when Houston went and found a Nico and a Tank, genuine 1 and 2 guys, and said, here's CJ, here's some actual weapons. not a bunch of nobodies that are playing out of position. It doesn't make sense that people can't see that. I'll finish this thought when I come back.
Thank you for saying people, because it's not just me who feels that way. I'm just the guy in the room.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's the Fan Upstate. I gotta stop talking Panthers. I just get angry every time.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you just want. I mean, you're like, I'm waiting to see you throw stuff intentionally, as opposed to the
Don't throw stuff. Breaking stuff's not my style. If I break stuff, it's unintentional. I accidentally break stuff.
We'll say the no button begs to differ over there. No, it's kind of spoilery, but I got because I'm not sure you'll ever watch it. Bob Dylan doesn't get it, and Bob Dylan's like, "Could Stevie just play the piano and just me and Stevie?" And he does, and then he gets it. It's like, just imagine being in a room where he could say, "Could Stevie just play the piano for me?"
And he just play the piano.
And when Dylan gets done, he's like, "You sure that's okay?" You can tell he was not happy with this stuff. Come on, Steven. You're trying to stir up trouble. I've already got one person angry in here. I don't need to, make someone else mad. You could have more than one team according to that person, Steven, but just in one sport. But, in a town, you've got to have, if you're a fan of a team in a town, you got to be a fan of all the teams in that town. Surprised you don't know the rules by now. I've been given to you multiple times. Let's see, Rob pours his heart out about the Panthers. That'll get people to listen. By the way, he's legitimately mad at me because he's being all quiet.
I'm not mad. I'm frustrated by this whole situation. Like, I don't understand it.
And there are a lot of people equally frustrated and can't understand your defense. I do wish that I could find my way in there to be defended the way that you defend Bryce Young.
I do.
So you're saying everyone's coming at me.
No, not everyone, but if someone comes at you, I absolutely do.
Yeah, I don't care if someone comes at me.
And just like with Bryce Young, I say, look at the team surrounding Lonzo. Look what he has to work with on the field on a daily basis and how bad it is.
Well done.
And then he shows up and performs.
Well done. And not lately. If you people only knew how much I'm falling apart right now. Might be pieces of me falling on the board before the show's over.
That's gross. I hate that you said that. I hope you never say anything like that again.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen. But, I meant pieces of me emotionally. That's what I meant. Or parts of my sanity. Just,
Wrapping up hour number 3 of the Rob Brown Show. Let me finish up these few thoughts I'm having on Carolina. It started with, after Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick have both informed Washington and Seattle that they will be remaining with their current teams for at least one more season. The point that I was making was this makes even more justified the decision of the Panthers a week ago to go with Dave Canellis. Lonzo then asked the question, what happens if the Panthers come out next year and have the same start to the season they did this previous year? What's going to happen is I am going to be in this air chair in week 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever that comes, and I am going to be saying to those people, you need to calm down. This is a different world, but that is going to be dependent on one thing. It is going to be dependent on, at that point, me being able to say, and I don't know if I will or won't, that Tepper's gotten out of the way, that Morgan has the authority and the power to act as a GM, that Dan Morgan and Dave Canellis, who had an 8-year relationship in Seattle, have been able to get on and stay on the same page, that the OC is building a good offensive culture that does not fall apart when things get tough, and that Evero, fingers crossed, defense is playing at the same high level that was playing at last year. And if all those things are true, I'm going to say you're in a fine position. Now, 2 things that are it is going to take time. Dave Canellis is not going to come out and have a wonder kid year his first year. I will tell you, there is one good thing for Canellis. The NFC South as a whole is, and that gives you an advantage, much like Houston didn't make the playoffs only because Houston had an incredible year. They also made the playoffs because Jacksonville, bad, hard down the season. Because Indy lost Anthony Richardson. They could have won that division if he didn't get a broken collarbone. The NFC South next year, the Saints are going to be trash next year. I'm prepared for that. The Falcons, big question mark. They don't have a quarterback yet. Unless they stumble on one, I don't trust them next year. You've got a shot. But there are 2 things working against you. Number 1, a guy like Dave Tepper doesn't just flip a switch and change his ways. It's going to take time for him to be conditioned by other people to take a step back. So that means that all of the culture issues regarding Dave Tepper and his ownership of this team, they don't just vanish. Heather, are you there? They don't just poof away, right? They don't just vanish. It's going to take some time, number 1. Number 2, the second most important thing to me is player acquisition, talent acquisition. Part of the reason Houston got there is they had an amazing draft. They hit on defensive rookie of the year. They hit on offensive rookie of the year. They hit on a breakout wide receiver. Usually, if you're lucky, you hit on one of those 3. Houston hit all 3 in one go. An incredible edge rusher, the best work quarterback of the year, and a wide receiver who made him look like a stud. Carolina doesn't have the assets to do what Houston did in the draft last year. They're going to have to do it through free agency. That costs a lot more money. It is going to be tough to do. So this, to me, as much as you're not going to want to hear it, this, to me, is a 2-year process. Year 1 is to change the toxicity around this culture, around this franchise. It is to get Tep to step back. It is get Morgan up to speed as a GM. It is get Canellis up to speed as an HC. It is revamp the culture of the program. Then year 2 is talent acquisition and concept execution. It is fine, the Will Anderson and the Nico Collins. It is fine, the Tank. It is fine, the guys. That's what Houston did well this year. Their culture wasn't bad. The only thing that was holding Houston back was bad coaching and a quarterback above his pay grade in Deshaun. They got rid of that guy. They hit on the right guy at QB. They found a young, hip coach who knows ball, and they had an incredible year of talent acquisition. That is not frequent. That is usually a 2 to 3 year process. Houston did it in 1. They are the exception, not the rule. If you expect any team to do what Houston did, you're going to be disappointed because 9 out of 10 times, that's not how it works. They are special. This year was special because of the fact that they were the exception, not the rule. This is going to be a 2-year process for Carolina. Year 1, get rid of the toxicity in the culture. Year 2, talent acquisition and concept execution. I don't need to talk about what we're going to be talking about in week 6 of next year. I'm ready. I'm excited to be talking about what we're going to talk about in week 6 of 2025, because that's when this kicks in, and that's when this program has the potential to really get to the moon. They don't have the resources to do what Houston did this year. Speaking of another guy that I will blindly defend as we walk through just the fires of criticism left and right is the great one, Lonzo.
Someone who doesn't have a lot of resources to work with either up there. You know what I'm saying?
Damn, man.
The South Carolina Gamecocks men's basketball team, I do my best with what I have, took down another ranked team last night as they defeated the 5th-ranked Volunteers of Tennessee, 63-59. Talon Cooper scored 18. I'm doing my best, man. 18 points. BJ Mack had 16 points, and Miles Stute knocked down 4 free throws in the final 25 seconds to seal the upset victory. Will they remain unranked? That remains to be seen. Clemson had held serve at home, knocking off Louisville 70-64. Clemson led by as many as a dozen in the second half before Louisville's scoring run brought it to within 4 with a half minute to play. PJ Hall led all scorers with 25. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman men's basketball team takes on the Citadel right here on your home for Furman Sports, the Fan Upstate. That'll be the worst read I've ever had in not my entire career, but you know. Sometimes I'm a kinder, and I know, you know, not everyone has read Weiss and Hickman's books and don't know what a kinder is, but sometimes I'm a kinder. When kinders get bored, they like, you know, not that I'm bored. I just, sometimes I like to fight, and I should not do that because yelling does not equal love. It does not. Still don't get it though. Everything that he's saying about Carolina was said about Houston last year. Everyone was saying it. It really came down to who made the right choice at quarterback, and Houston did, and Carolina did not. Selective memory. Did you get your milkshake?
Nope. Talk myself out of it because I have actually put on weight in the last 2 weeks. I don't know how. But I do know how. I eat like trash. This quarter zip used to be loose. It is not. I had a very real look at yourself in the mirror and call yourself a fat piece of boat conversation.
The mirror didn't talk back, did it?
No, fortunately, I'm not. I'm losing my shape, not my mind. Well, that's not entirely true.
Where is my mind?
And did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a
That's funny, James.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORk.
Admittedly, you're going crazy if you see that, but at the same time, it'd be kind of cool to look and see the Warrior in a mirror. I'm just being a bad friend in temptation. I need to stop with the milkshake thing. I'm sorry.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show enters its final hour now. Rob Lonzo and you right here on the Fan Upstate. Excellent to have you all this morning. Thank you for being a part of the radio program. We have been absolutely smoking it this year, this day, this week. I mean, really just this show in its entirety, right? All right, we got a lot to get to, a lot of stuff that we have been talking about on the broadcast today.
Definitely been a lot of heat.
Lot of it today. A lot of smoke on the show today for sure. We have talked about South Carolina's huge win over Tennessee last night. I was impressed, man. Like, if you listened to the show yesterday, my pregame was basically be competitive, right? Don't let that game end and have me come in here today saying you lost your cool again, right? Don't let that game end with me coming in here today and saying, yo, this team's got no composure. This team's got no ability to handle pressure. My thought was the spread's 14.5. Lose this game by single digits and you'll be fine. They won it. Outright won the game. 63-59, your final. I'm going to tell you right now, BJ Mack is a scary man. Scary dude. BJ Mack truck when he puts his head down. Now, I will say late in the game, I got a little bit frustrated because Tennessee recognized that the offense was appropriately so. Basically, let BJ get one-on-one down low, back him down to the rim, and hit him with the pump fake, go up, lay it off the glass. And so Tennessee kind of compressed the man coverage down a little bit, started throwing doubles at BJ Mack down low, started forcing BJ to the offhand, and Carolina still went to that 2 or 3 times in a row. And I'm like, guys, you do not recognize what the defense is doing, right? Like, I know it's a completely different level, obviously. But I used to tell my kids when I coached lower high school, upper middle school level ball, you're not robots, right? I draw up an offense. I'll give you the concept. Go execute. In fact, we had, when I was sitting in on Furman last Wednesday when they were at home against Samford. Samford's a fun team to watch play, right? Samford's a team that substitutes 5 at a time every 5 minutes. Full court press, man-to-man. Then they'll switch to a 1-3-1. Then they'll switch to a 1-1-2. 1-1-2-1. Then they'll switch to a 2-1-1-1. Like, they're fun to watch play. And Furman won that game. And we were talking to Bob Ritchie, the head coach at Furman, who, by the way, I'll have on the show Friday. I think we've got him scheduled. Whatever. Anyway, he dropped a line on me that I was blown away. I was like, Coach, talk to me a little bit about how you get the guys ready for this game. It's different than any other team you play, right? This team switches defense. They're full court pressing you. They're keeping constant rotation in and out. And he goes, basketball is a mix of chaos and concept. I was like, that's great, dude. That's great. It's a mix of chaos and concept. You put concepts into play. You put ideas of what the offense needs to be. You even throw set plays out there. Here's what I want you to do. But once the whistle blows, once the ball's in play, then it becomes chaos. And it's how do you handle your concept in the face of chaos? How do you adjust the concept on the fly? And I thought for a minute there, like, all right, South Carolina clearly has a concept. They clearly want to win this game by running the offense from block out, which is fine. When your offense is predicated around three-point shooting, as South Carolina's is, when your offense is predicated around three-point shooting, it seems counterintuitive, but I want the offense to be run from the block out. Why? Because I want the defense drawn closer to the rim. I want my guys that are my shooters off ball, moving, rotating, getting around the floor, setting picks without the ball, rotating off the ball, coming off the screens and getting themselves in a position where from the inside, it's pump fake, distribute to a shooter, get him a clean shot, get him a clean look at the basket, right? That's what I want. And it felt like that was the goal last night, except for they were trying to take the block away. And 2 or 3 possessions in a row, it was like, it just felt like BJ felt panicked. Like, I've got to score down low. Doesn't matter, there's 3 guys in white jerseys down here. I got to score down low. And then the concept changed. 2 or 3 possessions later. Now, all of a sudden, instead of getting the ball to BJ on the block, BJ was getting the ball at the free throw line, or he was getting the ball out on the short corner, right? It wasn't on the block. He was getting the ball out on the short corner. That way, if there was a double team, the lane was clear for a cutter, right? Now he's getting the ball on the elbow at the free throw line. Why? Because if I get the ball out here and you double team, now the blocks are empty. Now I can get one of my guys cutting on the outside, beat a one-on-one off a screen. I throw a little distribution pass, bang, easy layup. That was, to me, the first time that I saw South Carolina respond in a high-pressure situation by evolving the concept in real time, which is what I'm looking for out of a championship caliber team, right? This is why Coach Ham and the Lake Show right now are getting beat up so much. It's because the concept isn't changing for LA, right? Teams have figured out the Lakers, and they're throwing defenses at the Lakers that work, and the Lakers aren't adjusting. They're not evolving the concept. Concept versus chaos. I love that phrase from Bob Ritchie. It will be part of the lexicon of the show moving forward. Last night, there was chaos, especially late in that game. And it was the first time that instead of becoming more chaotic as a result, they adjusted the concept and still played concept basketball. And it worked. I go back to the Alabama game. South Carolina on the road at Alabama. Before you hit me with, well, wait a minute, Rob, what about the Kentucky game? There was never chaos in the Kentucky game, right? Now, the mark of a truly great team is they never let it get chaotic. But let's be honest, this is basketball. Even the best teams at any level are going to face chaos, right? North Carolina didn't think they were going to go into Atlanta last night, play Georgia Tech, and face chaos. That should have been a walkout dub. But Georgia Tech said, let's be chaotic. Let's be wild. And if you're a good team, you got to know how to handle when a lesser team is being chaotic. You got to be even more aggressive when a better team is being chaotic. I go back to the Kentucky game. There was no chaos. South Carolina was able to mitigate the chaos throughout the game. The concept ruled in that game. I go back to the Alabama game. It was the exact opposite. Early in the game, South Carolina was playing good ball. Then Alabama upped the chaos level. They played less concept, more chaos. They were like, let's get in their heads, right? Let's poke and prod. Let's talk smack from the bench. Let's get weird. And Instead of evolving the concept to match the chaos, South Carolina got more chaotic. And when they got more chaotic, the talent level at Alabama took over, right? The talent level is mitigated on one side or the other. To me, this is just my basketball philosophy. The talent level is mitigated if and only if, on the concept v chaos scale, you play the other side. If you are up against a very fundamentally sound team and you're less talented, you have to create chaos. You have got to get it to where their concept either has to evolve or they lose. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but that's the best way to mitigate talent. And the flip side is true as well. If you are a fundamentally better, more talented basketball team, then to me, the best way to win that game is to be the most concept-based team so that your basketball talent is what is most important. Last night, South Carolina went into that game, and early in the game, they ran a chaos enough based offense, right? Moving the ball around a lot, working it inside out instead of outside in. A lot of off-ball movement, a lot of off-ball screens, getting guys open around the rim, getting guys open around the three line. That Tennessee's talent advantage was mitigated because they might be the most talented at this one thing, but we're taking that away by being chaotic. And then late in the game, because Tennessee was down as many as 8 with a couple of minutes to play, late in the game, Tennessee started trying to be chaotic. Tennessee started to change the defensive looks. We're not going to give B.J. Mack the ability to get the ball on the block and distribute outwards. We're going to take that away by every time it touches the ball, we're running a second defender down there, right? We're going to be the chaotic team. And at that point, the roles flipped. At that point, South Carolina said, okay, we'll adapt the concept. Same concept. We're still going to work the ball from the paint outwards to our three-point shooters. Same concept, but we're going to evolve it. We're going to move it. It's not going to be BJ on the block working outward. Now we're going to move him out to the short corner. We know you want to double team that guy down low. We know if we get him the ball down low, you're going to send a second defender. You're going to take away points in the paint, right? That's fine by us. We're not going to take low percentage shots because BJ Mack's getting double and triple teamed. We're going to instead move him out to the short corner. We're going to move him up to the stripe. We're going to move him to the elbows on either side. We're going to, instead of having two spots block to block that he can get the ball, allowing you to double team, taking away the high percentage underneath shots, instead, we're going to work him from the short corner, from the elbows, from the free throw line. We're going to create 5 points that he can distribute from. Short corner left, elbow left, center of the free throw line, elbow right, short corner right. And now the ball's going to be distributed from there. And what you can't do in those spots is run a double team there. Because if you run a double team there, the lane's empty. Now I'm having, Michi or whoever. Now I'm having them run a screen and a cut to the basket. We were running screen to try to get a guy open for a long jumper or for a three-point shot. But if you're going to take away the block, that's fine. We move the ball away from the block. You got to travel up to the basketball. And if you double team there instead of playing an honest 1v1 man defense, now I'm going to have my guys just cut straight. Whoever double teams BJ, I'm having them cut to the rack every time. Off ball screen, come off the top, cut to the rack, hit him in stride, BJ. Bounce pass up over the top. You're a big boy, whatever it is. Lamont had his boys adapt the concept to Tennessee's chaos. In the Georgia game, in the Alabama game, those teams created chaos, and South Carolina tried to match chaos with chaos. You can't do it. You can't do it. You've got to match chaos with concept. You got to match concept with chaos. In the Georgia and the Bama game, those teams created chaos, and South Carolina melted in the face of chaos. In the face of chaos, they got more chaotic. So I said yesterday going into that game, you know what I want to see now? When a game gets chaotic, I want to see the concept evolve. Not the word I used, but that's basically what I said. When they get chaotic, I want to see you play with composure. I want to see you keep your head on straight. When their team starts talking smack from the bench, I don't want you to hear it. When their fans start getting loud and over the top, you know what I want you to do? I want you to play the most boring-ass efficient basketball you've played all year. I want you to quiet them down. I want you, every time Tennessee hits a big basket to get the crowd back into it, I want you to come back to the other end and sink the dagger to take them right back out. And that's what they did last night. That is why, to me, Lamont Paris is the SEC Coach of the Year after that win last night, right? Unless there is just a cataclysmic fall off for this team over the next month, that dude's the SEC Coach of the Year. Because that team went from a team 3 weeks ago that melted in the face of chaos to a team that last night, as Tennessee's chaos level increased because the clock decreased and they were running out of time to do anything, last night, they just changed the concept. They didn't panic. Hell, I panicked. I panicked because with about 7 minutes left to go, the referees decided, hand checks are fouls now, right? Wasn't that way? Early, there were 2 spots in the game. Very early in the game, the refs were calling a lot of hand check, ticky-tack fouls. South Carolina adjusted, right? I even saw it on that last possession for Tennessee when the ball got knocked into the back court, right? And Tennessee had to go get it. I think it was Michi that ran out there with the guard, with Connect, to try to slow him up. And I watched him as the dude picked up the ball. Michi went to hand check. And right as the hand touched, you could see that minute of like, oh, wait. And the hands went back out wide, right? They adjusted, not just to what Tennessee was doing, but how the referees were evolving the game. The fouls were ticky-tack early. So South Carolina backed off. They said, fundamental defense. We can't hand check. We can't play physical defense on these guys right now. They're getting calls. And then in the third quarter, when those calls stopped getting made, South Carolina didn't melt down. They just changed up, got a little bit more physical. Once the whistles came back into play late, once guys were starting to get their third and fourth fouls, South Carolina changed the defense again. All right, go back to what we were doing. No hand checks. Up and wide, man, up and wide. Stretch them out, wingspan. That's where we're going. Take away the passing lane best you can. I was blown away by that team last night. Blown away by that team last night. This was a team that was expected to finish in the bottom of the SEC. Instead, they have now knocked off the 2 best teams in the Southeastern Conference. Yes. Oh, and by the way, Clemson, you're welcome, because that win over South Carolina has just become a Q1 win, right? Or at least to me. I now consider it a Q1 win. Clemson beat at home a team that has now knocked off 2 of the top 6 teams in America in a 1-week span. That is a bona fide win for Clemson over South Carolina now. I remember the conversation with the texter we had earlier in the year when they said, hey, Rob, how come you're not talking Carolina ball? And I said, because you don't have any wins yet, right? You're 13-0 or 13-1 after the Clemson L, but you don't have any wins yet, or at least none that are worth talking about, right? Wins over, who was it? Grand Canyon University, a college I only know exists because they run late night TV infomercials about them. That's not a quality win. That's not a win I can hang the hat on. Now you got wins I can hang the hat on. You got multiple SEC wins. You got multiple top 6 SEC wins. Now I can hang the hat on them. That's why you're getting the discussion. That's why when the next rankings come out, you're going to be in them. And if you're not, raise hell, because you deserve to be, right? I don't know. I loved it. Last night was Georgia Tech over UNC, South Carolina over Tennessee, Clemson in a fight and then digging one out against Louisville. Last night was a great college basketball night. Texture said, Rob, great conversation. Glad we're having it, but could you tell me what color socks Clemson will be wearing this weekend? Good text. Good text. I like that a lot. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in a minute, got a few more stories that I want to run through. Got this Rory McIlroy story. NFL audience numbers from playoff divisional round weekend or championship weekend. Tell you what those are because they're pretty impressive, to be honest with you. We got to talk about this Tennessee investigation as well. It's very interesting. I'm Rob, he's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
Creepy weather guy. Around and pull out of here. We gonna have a whole mess of beef back here.
Meat rock.
That's where people go to disappear. Always the fourth hour that reminds me that I'm just not back yet. Went home yesterday, took medicine, and went to sleep for 3 hours again. I gotta stop doing that.
Yeah.
And then last night, someone set their clock wrong. It went off at midnight. I was not happy about that.
I believe that.
And she didn't hear it because she's in the other room. I was like, could you come and fix that? So it doesn't, and she thought she fixed it. 12:30, went off again. Just enough time for me to get back to sleep. It's like, oh, I'm not getting any rest tonight.
I screwed up. The dog has to go out at 2:30. A little bit over an hour before the alarm goes off. And I got up and took her out, and then I went back to sleep. And I should have just been like, it's one more hour. I might as well just stay awake.
At least you made it here on time. I was gonna find this hard to believe. I'm finding hard to find a position to sleep in comfortably. So between the other thing and the leg, and then trying not to cough, then wondering if there's something in the bed hidden that crawls out and stings me in my leg.
You'll get ranked, Nolan. When the next ones come out, you'll 100%.
We'll see.
You were the highest vote total getter of non-ranked teams. You will be ranked next time out. Those are two huge net wins.
Whatever your morning sounds like, Nature Made fits right in. Whether you're looking for vitamin C or nutrients, we've got you covered. Now
Oh no, I let my ex linger on a wrestling video, which means I'll get like 10. It was Shawn Michaels pinning Mike Knox and then going and asking everybody who the heck Mike Knox was.
The biggest game of the year, Super Bowl 58, the Chiefs versus the 49ers, live from Vegas, Sunday, February 11th at 2 p.m. Only on the Fan, Upstate 97.7 FM, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey. Mark Ryan turns it back in.
Coming up on a hump day episode of Offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel. Clemson off to an incredibly fast start in recruiting rankings 2025. South Carolina, not so much, just one ranked recruit. So in the
Wow, because you can't mention one without mentioning the other. It's the law.
Top 5 coaches in the NFL, truth serum, and so much more.
Number one for real afternoon sports talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
3 to 7 on the Fan.
Upstate.
Rise and shine.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. It is the Fan Upstate, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back as we round our way to the end of the show. Let's real quick talk about this Tennessee thing because it does kind of feel like a big deal. Tennessee once again under investigation for NIL violations, and this one is the second time for Tennessee. They have already been fined $8 million for previous violations. According to multiple reports, the NCAA investigating the school for potential breaches of the governing body's muddled name, image, and likeness rules. That is the phrase used by Nick Bromberg of Yahoo Sports. He said, per the New York Times, one of the allegations at the center of the investigation centers around a collective's payment for a private flight for Tennessee's new starting quarterback. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
yeah, that's wow.
You know, 90% of the time I say I'm pretty good at radio, and then 10% of the time I say things like that.
It's okay as long as that 10% is funny. I'm okay with it.
I mean, if you're gonna botch it, that's a good way to do it. Anyway.
Did you hear about that Rob Brown show? They were talking about nudies on there. I heard it.
Tennessee Spire Sports Group has been one of the most active collectives in the country since the NCAA allowed NIL to begin. Collectives obviously are groups within universities that solicit donations and then find ways to distribute them to the athletes, effectively creating an easier way for athletes to get NIL money than having to go out and solicit it themselves. That being said, it is technically against NCAA rules to use potential endorsement money as a recruiting tool. FSU has been hammered for that. Tennessee has already been hammered for that. But obviously, the argument is the rules are a little murky. Tennessee under investigation for effectively the same thing that Florida State just got hammered for. Remember, Florida State had a collective being used as a recruiting tool and an offensive coach. In fact, their offensive coordinator drove a potential transfer to meet with an NIL collective leader to discuss NIL opportunities. Tennessee did the same thing, except they put the kid on a private plane and flew him to a meeting. It's not any different than throwing him in a Suburban, but it's a private plane. Sounds nice, to be honest with you. Anyway, the NCAA had already fined Tennessee $8 million for violations that happened under Jeremy Pruitt. That fine and the vacating of 11 wins in July of last year came after a year-long process that Tennessee initiated back in 2020. Pruitt was fired from the school with cause after the season. By firing him with cause, the school didn't have to pay his buyout. It instead went to those fines. Here's the statement made by Spire Sports, the collective involved here. Quote, in early 2022, independent of the University of Tennessee or anyone associated with its athletics program, Spire Sports entered into a mutually beneficial contractual relationship with the quarterback that involved a limited assignment of his NIL rights no matter what school he chose to attend. Such representation agreements have become increasingly common. The parties agreed that their contractual rights and obligations will be governed by California law, which freely allows prospective college athletes to enter into such agreement. The commercial reasonableness of the agreement between Spire and Nico was evidenced by a recitation that Spire anticipated Nico would eventually be drafted by an NFL team. The agreement also specifically acknowledged the restrictions prohibiting the use of any school's or team's logo or insignia. The agreement required Spire to protect the value of Nico's NIL rights and specifically stated that nothing in the agreement constitutes any form of inducement to athlete to enroll at any school and or join any athletic team. In short, the agreement was fully consistent with then existing NCAA NIL guidelines and had nothing to do with recruiting Nico to the University of Tennessee or any other school. Spire Sports and the Vol Club currently represent more than 100 college athletes and are proud to have helped them maximize the value of their legally protected name, image, and likeness. So here's what this collective is arguing. This is a really interesting argument. Here we go. Back to the boring legalese, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care. It's interesting to me. What Spire is arguing here is we did not sign him. Even though we are the official collective of the University of Tennessee, we did not sign him to an NIL agreement to get him to Tennessee. We signed him to an NIL agreement because we believe the kid is going to be an NFL player. And if he's an NFL player, he's got a valuable brand. And if he's got a valuable brand, it's going to help the businesses in question that we organize this NIL deal for, through, with, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Lonzo, I don't believe that at all, for the record. No, I don't believe they signed a kid to not play football at the university that they are connected to. I believe they signed the kid in a roundabout way. And hell, if you like to play the game, a very smart way, right? By saying, dude, we're not giving you this NIL to come play at UT. We are the official collective of UT. We're directly connected to UT, but we're not signing you to play at UT. We're just signing you because we think you're a great player. But also, we do really like Tennessee.
We got a stack of money over here. It's sitting right here. We're going to give it away free. You just happen to be in the room.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're giving it away free. You just happen to be here. You might as well take it. I wonder if the NCAA will crack down on Tennessee as fast as they have on Michigan.
I'm intrigued by this because the Florida State investigation that got them the hammer brought down was a couple of months long, but it was done very quietly. This one, obviously, being done very publicly. And part of the reason is because of the fact that Tennessee literally just paid $8 million for a previous stack of violations. But I'm curious as to what happens here, right? Because this is one of those old situations where mom tells brothers to stop hitting each other, brother grabs other brother's arm and uses it to hit himself in the face. And mom's like, I told you stop hitting. I didn't hit him. He hit himself. Technically, you're right? Technically, you didn't violate the rule mom put in place. Technically, you did not do what she told you not to do.
Yeah, that's on mom.
We all know what you did, right? Like, we all know what you did. But technically, you didn't do that.
By the way, if you're listening and you're on your way to school or just happen to be out for some of it, we don't condone it. All right, so we do. That's what siblings do.
Okay, thank you.
Siblings do that.
Brother v. brother violence will never end. All right, it's one of the joys of being the brother, specifically the big brother.
I never had a brother. But sisters. It just still works.
Brother. This is going. I am really intrigued by this. Right. I'm intrigued by this because I don't know that Tennessee can be punished here. If there is indeed a contractual agreement between the player and the collective that never says you have to play for Tennessee, you just got to play, right? Then Tennessee can say, we didn't use this as a recruiting tool. This is not an inducement to play. We were giving the kid money for being a great athlete. We believe that our brand will be elevated by him wherever he plays, right? We're just very fortunate, happy, lucky even that he did pick the school that we represent, right? It ain't what you know, it's what you can prove. And if you can't prove that there was some spoken agreement between the collective and the player that said, hey, look, here's the deal. We're going to write down on this paper. We're going to write down on this paper that you can play anywhere you want, right? And if you sign the kid to the deal before he signs on to play at Tennessee, then you're taking the gamble. You're taking the gamble that one day a player isn't going to sign a contract. Yeah, I'll come play for Tennessee. Sign a $1 billion contract and then go, gotcha, I'm going to, and take off.
Are all these collectives just school specific, or is there like a national collective? And if there isn't, why isn't there one?
I don't know that there is a national collective yet.
For bigger name sponsors like Nike or someone like that who could sponsor an athlete.
Scratch that. WWE literally has one.
Right.
It's called WWE Next. And it is an NIL collective, and WWE has NIL deals with athletes across America. Now, what they are doing, obviously, is they are finding collegiate athletes that they think one day could transition out of their college sport and into professional wrestling. And I think it's a great idea.
That's why I'm wondering, bigger companies, are they doing that yet? Because then it doesn't matter where they're playing.
I am sure that,
and that's a way around this whole thing.
I am sure that there are some companies, like national companies. Olivia Dunn, gymnast for LSU, one of the biggest NIL earners in America right now, has an NIL. Don't know the name of it, but she has an NIL deal with a women's athletic clothing line, like not one of the big ones that you know. And by you, I mean all of us. But she's got TV commercials running around. It's like her doing cartwheels on a beach in these stretchy pants. So, yes, there are absolutely companies doing that. And I think you're taking the legal ability to do that. And what you're going to start, or what I guess you now have started seeing, is school-specific NILs signing the exact same type of deal, right? Like WWE's like, I don't really care where you run track and field. I just care that you run track and field and that you are running track and field, being paid by us to rep us to one day come to NXT. I think that school collectives are likely at this point going to start signing that type of contract with the old wink, wink, nudge, nudge of, but you are going to play for Tennessee, right? Like, we'll sign you a deal that allows you to play anywhere. This deal is valid whether you play at Tennessee or Chattanooga or Alabama or LSU or anywhere else. But,
better make those 1 year
real nice
1 year deals.
I'm sure they would.
Because with transfer portal, I mean, there's a shot they will be playing somewhere the following year.
I don't know this for a fact, but I got a sneaky suspicion that most NIL deals are year by year, right? Because again, forget that, I mean, yes, transfer portal, but also what happens if the kid blows his knee and he's never going to play football again, right? Like most NIL deals are year to year. So I think you're at a point where you're going to see, like I said, you're going to see schools say NIL deal is good anywhere you play, but there is always going to be that unspoken wink, wink, nudge, nudge agreement but we kind of want you to play here at the school that we rep. But then when the NCAA comes and goes, yo, wait a minute. You can't use NIL as an inducement to play for the school. You go, no, we didn't. We didn't do that. This NIL deal is good no matter where he plays, right? We're not inducing him to play for our school. He can go play anywhere he wants, and this NIL deal stays in place. And again, I will tell you right now, I cannot wait for the first athlete that burns a collective, right? I can't wait for the first athlete that's got the stones on him to sign a, $250,000 1-year NIL deal that's good anywhere from a University of Tennessee collective. And then 3 days later, after that contract is signed, he signs to go play ball at LSU, right? So now you got a NIL collective out of Knoxville, the only city I can't not say with that accent. Now you got an NIL collective out of Knoxville, Tennessee, paying $250 a year to a kid to play for LSU because that kid screwed him over, right? But again, thus is the danger of charting uncharted waters. You never know what's going to happen. So I don't know that this investigation is going to go anywhere, because if they followed like WWE and signed a similar NIL deal that says, yo, this deal's good anywhere. It is not related to you playing for a school. We don't care where you play. We just care that you play and stay as an athlete. If they sign that same type contract, unless there is a recording or an email from player in question's dad that's like, yeah, he'll play there. We'll just say it, right? Unless they have it documented somewhere that wink, wink, nudge, nudge deal was in place. That dude gave a verbal commitment to play there off the record. Yeah, if you sign me that $250,000 NIL, I will sign a contract to play there. Unless somebody can prove that conversation happened and that agreement took place before the NIL deal was signed, then Tennessee's going to walk away from this, I think. I'm not an attorney, nor did I stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. But it kind of feels like a very interesting legal argument, right? If you can't prove that there was a handshake agreement in place that this kid was going to sign with Tennessee, even though he did sign with Tennessee, all he's got to do, son, keep in mind that you must be open and honest here, was a portion of this contract was a qualifier on this NIL deal that you play football at the University of Tennessee. No, sir, it was not. Well, then why are you playing ball at Tennessee? I just really like Knoxville. Great music scene, man. Got a lot of good music. Girls are real pretty in Knoxville, Tennessee, Your Honor, right? Because unless somebody can come to the stand and go, here's a tape recording, here's an email, here's a text message where Nico or his dad or whoever, unless it is documented that somebody said, you give us this deal that is a national deal and we guarantee we'll play at Tennessee, then there's no argument here, man. There's no argument, right? They didn't violate anything. Joey B says, was there quid pro quo? It's as simple as that. Shouldn't be hard to prove one way or the other. That's the spot you're going to find yourself in, man. Right? Like one side, and again, I'm this is true, very dumb. I'm a dumb person, all right? I'm a dumb guy. But my understanding is that if you are going to utilize that as the crux of this, which it feels like it is per the NCAA guidelines, right? You would have to prove that there is, not that there isn't, right? And I may have that wrong. But my assumption, my understanding, I should say, my understanding is that you would have to prove that there is. This is why in a court, it is not you are found guilty or innocent. It is found you are found guilty or not guilty. Not guilty, not meaning that you're innocent. It means that we could not prove that you are guilty. So somebody would have to come up with documentation of some type or have multiple people testify that this kid or this kid's dad or whoever definitely said, we will sign for Tennessee if this NIL deal is what we want it to be. If nobody can prove that that agreement was in place, then this is just going to be this group going, hey, yeah, I mean, we're the primary collective for Tennessee, but, really, we're just here for the athletes, and we don't care where they play. We just want them to be better off, right? Unless somebody can prove to the contrary, that just kind of is what it is. Let's run to a break. We'll come back here in a minute. We got a couple of calls lined up, and then it's what the X is going on, and then I'm calling it a day. It's Rob, it's Lonzo, it's you. It's the Rob Brown Show. It is the Fan Upstate.
Caller just mentioned he thought that's what Quinn Ewers did as far as signing an NIL deal and going somewhere else and then taking it with him.
Again, there are absolutely companies that are doing that, right? Like there are absolutely companies that are.
You just don't hear about that as much. Yeah.
And why would you, right? Like, I mean, you do, like the big companies, like we know about WWE's NIL program. Y'all talk to Alonzo so he doesn't get bored.
I don't get it. Never been to Pigeon Forge. I've driven past it. But where I get so sick in the mountains, I can't really go there. Let's face it, I get sick not in the mountains right now, too. So it's also funny that everything I say, someone on the stream texts Rob while he's in the other room. Like, I don't know that you guys do that. Some of you guys do that. That I don't test it every once in a while just to see if it still works. And it does. Like I would say anything in here that I wouldn't say to him. Do you consider yourself a Rob Mole? It's a proud title. Maybe we can get you a t-shirt. Rob Mole. I'm more interested in talking to the offsides moles.
How did Pigeon Forge come up?
You were talking about Tennessee?
Oh, okay. I don't know if I missed the Pigeon Forge conversation.
No, I decided not to feed your moles during the break since you brought it up. So I just sat here.
That's the only reason I wanted you all to talk to him.
As if I don't know that happens because you already told me it happens. That's the worst part.
I value honesty and openness.
Like I said, I'm not going to say anything on here while you're out of the room that I won't say to you while you're in the room. That would be kind of stupid. Hey, don't tell Rob. Knowing that means, hey, let me go tell Rob. I did say I'm more interested in the offsides moles than I am the Rob moles. I have a lot more fun with those guys. I don't know what you're asking if you can do, but yeah, you can do that, James. Whatever it is, just do it. Wish someone would answer my text. Nah, it's going to be a long evening for Diesel.
All right, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan of State. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we steam ever towards the end of the radio broadcast. Texter said during the break, Rob, why? I love this. Rob, why have you not talking about South Carolina's win over Tennessee? Why do you hate on the Gamecocks so much? Yeah. Yep. That's it. I went this entire show without mentioning
Wait,
that game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
frankly.
I know. But if let's say perchance that you did talk about
Perchance.
we talked about the South Carolina
Theoretically.
victory over Tennessee, like maybe the entire first hour, and you missed it. There's this thing called a podcast. You can go back and listen to that. We also have Odyssey has a thing called Rewind. So if you have the app, you can go back and look. Well, that's labeled South Carolina. Well, that's labeled South Carolina. Well, that's labeled South Carolina because it was already talked about.
I'm just saying, Texter, 3-hour show, and we hit everything. big dog.
4-hour show.
Oh yeah, that's right. We are 4 hours. I'll get used to that at some point. It's only been like what, 3 months? I'm not there
I
yet.
think it's been longer than that. I don't know.
Who knows? Whatever.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
Nolan said, "Yeah, can we talk about us more, please?" That's my guy.
All right. Time to ask Rob what the X is going on. The first one I'm really enjoyed that it showed up because it's as if they were listening. Hashtag earworm is trending.
All right. So yeah, an earworm obviously is the song you can't get out of your head, right? And I have had 2 so far today. It is what, 9:50 in the morning? And granted, I've been up for 6 hours now, but I've had 2 so far. I had Chicago stuck in my head, and then I had Creed stuck in my head. Now, it's because I found this really dope trap remix of a Creed song, which was awesome. We had the discussion. What is better to get rid of a song stuck in your head? Is it, because the popular thought has always been, if you have a song stuck in your head, go listen to that song. Go listen to the song in its entirety. It'll take it out of your head. That doesn't work for me. That puts it deeper in my head. The opposite is true for me. I got to go listen to 1,000 other songs.
And then in those quiet moments, that song still creeps back in.
Yeah.
And then like maybe when you go to sleep, it goes away.
Leave me now.
It was gone. I was hoping you wouldn't sing it again.
Ooh, girl, baby, please don't go. Bum, 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 ba-dow.
It's a little
I don't know why. I don't know why. I didn't hear
dog.
that song today.
It's a little pitchy. Yeah, because you come in singing that. At 5:30, you're singing that. I was like, what are you doing?
I listen to sports talk radio from 4 a.m. until 6 a.m. And somehow Chicago, not even like upbeat Chicago, for no reason at all, was what was in my head today.
Yeah, I was worried maybe something was going on. Like maybe is everything all right? You know, because you were singing that song. I was like, oh no.
I don't know. No, like everything in my life is great. All right. Everything in my song is great. And yet
everything in your song is great. You're right. If your life was a song, your song would be beautiful.
And
right
yet,
now.
for whatever reason, If You Leave Me Now jumped in my head and I did not shake. I still have not shaketh it.
Still a good band.
Great band. Love Chicago.
You know. All right. The next thing it's Xing is hashtag D&D character.
What's your favorite? What's your best one? Just quick reprise.
I've only played a little bit, but I've only played as a paladin.
Okay.
Because, you know.
Tank.
Well, and you don't know what God I serve.
True.
Which is always my favorite thing to say when I'm playing a paladin.
Professional wrestler named Andre Ravage the Warrior. Who talks like this the whole game, brother? It's the best. D&D is the best.
If we would have finished our recent playthrough, the potential of some of the things that I was going to do would have been amazing. All right, the next thing that is Xing, is Elmo.
All right. I don't know. All right. I don't know what's going on. But there was something.
Elmo sent out a positive message about calling a friend and making sure they're okay. And
right.
There's backlash against Elmo.
No. It is not backlash against Elmo because I did see the responses. I didn't know what triggered it.
All right. I've seen things that says there's backlash against Elmo.
Right.
So, I mean,
all right, let me tell you what it is. It's not backlash against Elmo. It's basically Elmo occasionally sends out this like, is everybody okay tweets. And like Big Bird responded to it, was like, I'm glad you said this, Elmo, glad to talk to somebody, whatever. And all of the millennials in their existential dread are hitting Elmo back with like, yeah, no, Elmo, not everything's okay right now. There's a war going on. There's a housing crisis. Like everything's terrible, Elmo. Like they're utilizing Twitter Elmo as their therapist for their real life existential dread. It is that perfect millennial combination of horror and hilarious, because that is how my generation deals with an ever more chaotic world is by laughing through it because they can't do anything else.
Speaking of end of the world, the next thing that's Xing Yo is Satan.
I got nothing. Dave Grohl's the best on-camera Satan of all time, though.
All right, I think the depiction of what I think Satan looks like is Darkness from Legend. And check it out. It's Tim Curry with the big old horns and
Tim Curry's a good one.
Yeah, that's what I always envision.
Said I've been singing one line of Higher by Creed for the past 3 months. Can't get it out of my head. Can you take me higher? Trust me, I get it. July. Come with us. Get a ticket. Come watch Creed with me. Everybody's invited. We're all going to see Creed.
Yeah, but you got to buy your own ticket.
Buy your own ticket. I don't roll that deep. That's it for us. See you back here tomorrow. Rashad Beard Fight Club and more on the Fan Upstate later. Yeah. And if you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me. Ooh,
I realize I have 0 Chicago on my favorite lists on Spotify.
You know. Bum 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 butter.
And the reason why is because Peter Cetera is an alien. He just doesn't look. He looks weird. It just. God.
Oh man.
Exactly. Poor Elmo.
All right.
I don't even know. Did Peter Cetera sing that one? It might have been the other dude that no one knows his name.
Oh, man. I just want you to stay.
Trying to add here. Stop it.
All right, dudes and dudettes, you're all spectacular people. Have a lovely rest of your day. We'll see you on the flip side. Goodbye.